Chapter 544. As the elders of China, the ancient clans wanted to persuade the various dynasty legatees not to do this. After all, bringing in foreign powers would only harm China itself. The Chinese dynasty legatees fighting against Qin was already exhausting China's internal strength, so allying with foreign powers to attack Qin was not very kind. It was as if they were helping foreigners attack their own people. To most people, this would seem like they were traitors because they were working with others to attack their own people. However, they had long since stopped treating Qin as one of their own because Qin was a great threat to them and was their greatest enemy. As such, they would do everything they could to destroy him, who would care if he was Chinese or not. Moreover, in order to gather more people, they even shouted out a slogan, "Get rid of the evil demon and restore China." Of course, this evil demon was Qin. Because of what Qin had done, as well as the various factions' malicious words, they had successfully labeled Qin as an evil demon. Now that Qin was labeled as an evil demon, allying with foreign powers to attack Qin was viewed as righteous. The ancient clans tried to persuade them, saying, "I hope we can maintain the status quo. The dynasty legatees are so far away from each other, so isn't it better for them to develop on their own? Why care about Qin's development speed and strength?" The various dynasty legatees ignored these words, as Qin was already a threat to them. This was not a matter of region. As long as he was a threat to them, they had to get rid of Qin. However, the various dynasty legatees all had their own conditions. As long as Great Qin was willing to hand over the clan armament and not take a step out of the Forest of Horrors for 3 years, it would be best if they could suppress the nation armament. That way, they would have complete trust in Great Qin and would no longer oppose it. The ancient clans did not even think about the conditions that the dynasty legatees had offered, as they knew that it was impossible. If they agreed to something like this, they would not be Qin at all. If they really agreed, Qin would become weaker, but they would become more powerful. It would be difficult to say who would be the one to destroy who. Seeing that they couldn't persuade the dynasties, the clans could only focus on Qin. However, thinking of Qin's strength, they gave up the idea of persuading Qin. In the end, they sighed and stayed in the clans to see how things would develop. The dynasties and foreign forces only needed to spend a lot of resources to fight against the Qin state. They could just use ordinary people to attack the Qin state. Their real forces would not be harmed at all. With so many forces together, they had a huge amount of resources. Even if they consumed a lot of energy, it would become very little when it was spread out evenly. They didn't even care about it, as long as they achieved their goal. With the support of such a huge amount of resources, they were also full of confidence and began to think. He didn't know if the Golden Dragon had the same power, but it seemed like some unknown existence had attacked the Golden Dragon. After the Golden Dragon had become obedient, the unknown existence had disappeared. It seemed that the Golden Dragon didn't have much power, or else the unknown existence wouldn't have stopped. Moreover, if they attacked again and the Golden Dragon interfered, would the unknown existence help them stop the Golden Dragon? Without the Golden Dragon, they would be much more confident. Before, the players in one region had been able to force back Qin, so what about the 4 regions? The outcome was obvious. They decided to attack. Of course, they couldn't enter the Forest of Horrors unprepared, as the Forest of Horrors was now Qin's home. They didn't want to fall into Qin's countless traps and return in defeat like last time. As such, they had to make all sorts of preparations to defend against all sorts of traps and tricks from Qin. They would pay for all of the money that they had to spend. Of course, these money didn't mean much, and they just wanted to heavily injure Qin. The countless players in the 4 regions of the Forest of Horrors had turned into hungry wolves in the face of such immense benefits. They didn't care about anything else at all, and they looked incredibly excited, wanting to pounce on Great Qin and tear it apart. Zhao Fu quickly heard about this, and his expression became serious. He discussed with his generals about how to deal with this crisis. There were nearly 10 million players in the 4 regions, and it would be quite difficult to deal with them. This was especially so because they wouldn't have to truly die, so they could act as they pleased. However, Zhao Fu's soldiers were all living beings, and if they died, they would die. They couldn't infinitely revive like players. If they faced them head-on, regardless of whether they won or lost, Qin would be at a disadvantage. If the Golden Dragon had not used up all of its power, perhaps it would have been able to instantly kill them. It was a pity that in order to obtain the Heaven Murder bloodline, the Golden Dragon had forcefully stolen the fate of countless creatures, causing it to use up all of its power. The other factions that opposed Qin quickly joined in the fight against Qin. Countless neutral factions watched from the sidelines, and the few factions that supported Qin were unable to help at all. No one dared to come to a conclusion regarding this battle. Even though it seemed like the dynasty legatees had the advantage, not only did they have the advantage in numbers, but they were facing Qin. With Qin's unfathomable strength, it was hard to say what the outcome of this battle would be. The 100 schools of thought and the various Chinese sects' attitudes towards Qin were quite complicated. Sometimes they were forced to stand against Qin, but they had wanted to remain neutral and not offend either side. Now their sect masters had been killed by Qin, but if they had known that the Golden Dragon belonged to Qin, they wouldn't have acted. Back then, they had thought that the people from the other domains had forcefully stolen the human world's fate, which was why they had acted. In the end, they had been killed by the Golden Dragon, and they had died unjustly. However, even though the various sects' disciples were furious towards Qin, their sect masters tried to persuade them not to be angry. Firstly, they had offended Qin many times, and this was their way of repaying Qin. Secondly, if Qin could establish a kingdom, they hoped that their disciples would go over to fulfill their ambitions. After all, Qin was the faction with the most potential in the world, and it would not be good to have a bad relationship with him. Flower Moon was also discussing this matter. In actuality, they had wanted to work together with Qin for a long time, but because Qin had been holding on to their people, they had been delaying this for a long time. As such, they remained neutral. The Forest of Horrors seemed to be covered by an oppressive aura, and the various dynasty legatees prepared to attack. However, the temperature suddenly dropped to negative tens of degrees Celsius, and the rivers and lakes all froze as cotton-like snow fell from the sky. It was currently deep into winter, and it was so cold that even people wearing thick clothes felt incredibly cold. It snowed for 3 days, and the entire heaven-awakened world was covered by white snow. The snow was at least 1-2 meters deep, and some places were 3 or 4 meters deep. This caused the various dynasty legatees to stop attacking, and even Qin to stop clearing out the Forest of Horrors. Chapter 545. Zhao Fu had never thought that this festival would come so quietly. However, many people had guessed that it was the New Year festival, which was also called Christmas in the West and New Year's Day in some places. It was a festival that could only be held at the end of the year, and it was a festival that welcomed the arrival of the new year. The theme of the New Year festival was for families to be together, and it was filled with joy and joy. It caused the entire heaven-awakened world to fall into peace, and all battles stopped. Even if you didn't want to celebrate this festival and start battles, with the weather like this, even marching would be quite difficult. The thick snow and cold weather were the biggest obstacles. Moreover, factions that started battles during this festival would receive a destroyer stat. This was not a good stat, as it was a negative stat. Not only did it weaken one's stats, but it also increased one's chances of getting sick. This was the first time that such a festival had directly prohibited fighting. However, this was understandable. After all, it was the New Year, and it was the last time of the year. All sorts of battles should be temporarily put to rest. As such, this New Year festival was not a festival for fighting or killing. In fact, one didn't even need to go out and could obtain rewards at home. Almost everyone would receive rewards, so it was definitely one of the best festivals. No one knew exactly what the festival would be like, but it was a collective festival, so everyone had to work together. Rewards could also be traded between each other. However, only natives of the same village or city could trade with each other. People from one village could not trade with another village. However, if they belonged to the same faction but were in different cities, they could also trade. The New Year festival would open at 12 a.m., and Zhao Fu ordered people to make preparations while he went to the exchange stone steel. Even though the system main cities had been conquered by Qin City, there would still be exchange stone steels, so Zhao Fu didn't have to worry about going to other regions. The 10,000 Flower Festival focused on weapons, the Ghost Festival focused on professions, the Divine Fish Festival focused on city creation stones, the Disaster Festival focused on medicinal pills, and the New Year Festival focused on generals. However, there were two types of generals: Summon Generals and General Fate. Summon Generals could be done by exchanging for general medallions. They could summon ordinary generals or historical generals, but historical generals weren't ordinary historical generals. After all, almost all historical generals belonged to legatees, and they were loyal to their legatees. How could they be loyal to outsiders? Therefore, these historical generals were not generals of this time and space, but generals of similar parallel worlds. For example, in Yu Fei's case, there would be someone like him in a parallel world. Although they had different appearances, genders, and names, they had experienced the same things and reached the same height. They were also historical generals. Below are the rankings of the top 10 historical generals. 1. Sun Hanxiang, original character, Sun Wu. Gender, female. A war saint from a parallel world, the master of the 100 generations of strategists, the founder of Eastern military studies. 2. Wu Xiu, original character, Wu Qi. Gender, male. Famous military strategist, politician, reformer, representative of the military school in the parallel world. Proficient in the military school, legalism, and Confucianism. 3. Bai Shihan, original character, Bai Qi. Gender, female, the leader of the 4 great generals of the parallel world's warring states period. She fought countless battles in her life, and was almost undefeated. In the end, she was forced to commit suicide. 4. Han Zhangxin, original character Han Xian. Gender, male. One of the 3 great generals of the early Han dynasty in the parallel world. He was the representative of the strategists and the famous god of war. He was later killed unjustly. 5. Wang General, original character, Wang Jian. Gender, male, one of the 4 great generals of the parallel world's warring states period. He is also a famous military general in history and the greatest contributor to Qin's unification of the 6 states. 6. Wei Qing, original character, Wei Qing. Gender, female. One of the 3 great cavalry geniuses in the ancient parallel world. She was a famous general of the Western Han dynasty and one of the greatest contributors in defeating the Xiongnu. 7. Huo Linxue, based on Huo Zubing. Gender, female. A famous general and military strategist of the Western Han dynasty in the parallel world. She was the niece of the famous General Wei Qing. Unfortunately, she died young. 8. Li Shen, original character, Li Jing. Gender, male. The number 1 general in the early Tang dynasty of the parallel world. He made great contributions to the establishment and development of the Tang dynasty, indirectly leading to the collapse of the Arab Empire and the fall of the Roman Empire. 9. Li Mu, original character, Li Mu. Gender, male, one of the 4 great generals of the parallel world's warring states period. A famous general of the state of Zhao. He fought countless battles in his life and died at the hands of the state of Zhao in the end. Su Liui, original character, Su De. Gender, female. The founding commander of the Ming dynasty in the parallel world. Even though she was from a commoner background, she was a rare military genius and a general who destroyed the Yuan dynasty. Of the 10 great generals, 5 were from the Warring States period and 2 were from the Great Qin dynasty. It could be seen that even though the Warring States period was filled with battles, it was also an era where there were many generals. The Han dynasty also had 2, and just like the Great Qin dynasty, they were the only dynasty to have 2 great generals. The other dynasties only had 1 or none. The 10 great generals were half male and half female, making Zhao Fu feel quite surprised. He wanted to see what the female version of Bai Qi looked like. However, the 10 great generals all had their own general stars and general fate. It would be great if he could obtain them, as they were not any weaker than the original generals. They all needed general medallions to summon them. There was also general fate, which was what general fate meant. One could exchange for general fate and give it to any commander, allowing them to have a general star. Only general stars would cause astronomical phenomena when they appeared. They were people who were destined to have great fate from the moment they were born. However, the heavenly spirit stars were different from the earthly fiend stars. They were not born with general stars, but they had to go through tempering in the later stages. It was through endless battles that one's general fate was continuously tempered, allowing one's general star to appear. Historical generals had gone through this process long ago, which was why they had general stars. However, the newly recruited generals, such as Wang Dahu and Xiao Jian, did not have general stars, and they needed to continuously fight to awaken their general stars. General fate was split into general fate, heavenly spirit fate, and earthly fiend general fate. Exchanging for general fate would allow one's generals to awaken their general stars, and they would not be any weaker than historical generals. This general fate was most likely for the rising factions that could not obtain historical generals, as well as the large families, to close the gap between them and the nation factions. As for the general orders, they were prepared for the various countries' factions. After all, only people from a single city could trade for them. Excluding players, the legatees of the various countries had the highest number of residents. How could ordinary people compare to them? Chapter 546. Zhao Fu was quite interested in general medallions and general fates. With general medallions, he could summon different historical generals, and the more historical generals, the better. With general fates, he could give them to people who were not historical generals so that they could awaken their general stars. However, even though Zhao Fu wanted both of them, they were both incredibly expensive, so Zhao Fu had to make a choice. He couldn't afford to buy both of them. Time gradually passed, and there were no longer any system main cities in the Forest of Horrors. Zhao Fu couldn't see how they celebrated, but he could see how Qin City celebrated. There were many people from system main cities in Qin City, and they knew how to decorate. There were red spring festival couplets and festive New Year paintings on the doors of every family, and there were rows of red lanterns on the street. Everything was red during this festival. At this time, it was no longer snowing. The streets were filled with people celebrating. Along the streets, hawkers were also selling all kinds of festive items, such as candied fruits, glutinous rice balls, masks, lanterns, and so on. The streets were incredibly lively, and everyone was incredibly happy and filled with laughter. Zhao Fu stood on a building and looked down at the scene below, and he smiled. Right now, the heaven-awakened world was quite festive. In the real world, there was not much festive atmosphere, and it was just like a normal festival. Your Majesty, it's still early. Don't you want to go and have a look? Everyone else is celebrating, Xianru said with a slight smile. Zhao Fu nodded and replied, "This isn't suitable for me, so I won't participate." Your Majesty, I'll make a few dishes for you then, Xianru said softly. Zhao Fu nodded. Everything else had already been prepared, so he didn't have to worry about anything. Right now, he just had to wait until midnight. Following this, Xianru made a few dishes and brought a flask of wine to the building. Xianru's cooking was simply incredible, and she would never get tired of it. Zhao Fu slowly ate his food while Xianru maintained a calm smile, and the two of them chatted. Soon, it was 12 p.m., and Zhao Fu stood at the top of the building and looked up at the sky. Heaven and earth essence qi once again started to roil and gather in the sky, forming multicolored orbs of light. Bang, 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 explosions sounded out in the sky as these multicolored balls of light exploded the moment they were formed. Tens of thousands of different colored motes of light fell from the sky like fireworks, looking extremely beautiful. It wasn't just Zhao Fu. Everyone in the heaven-awakened world looked up at this beautiful rain of fireworks. Numerous couples were even holding hands and interlocking their fingers as they snuggled up against each other, enjoying this gorgeous moment with endless affection that caused others to feel envious. Countless motes of light gently floated down from the sky. Red, palm-sized pouches with the character for fortune embroidered on them appeared in front of everyone. This was the New Year's gift. No matter who it was, everyone would get one. That was why Zhao Fu said that this was a festival that was beneficial to everyone. It was also the most popular festival for countless people. Who wouldn't like this kind of festival where there were rewards for doing nothing? A fortune pouch also appeared in front of Zhao Fu, and Zhao Fu didn't hesitate to take the fortune pouch. He opened it expectantly, and a white light shot out as a few copper coins appeared in his hand. It's only a few copper coins. Zhao Fu couldn't help but laugh and shake his head, but he still put it away. There were all sorts of New Year's gifts. Most people would receive at least a few copper coins, and those who were lucky could receive equipment or skills. Those who were extremely lucky could even receive gold-grade items or even legendary-grade items. This was just the beginning of the new year, and it was only now that the new year began. The new year was split into two parts, day and night. There were different ways to obtain New Year points, and these New Year points were used to exchange for all sorts of things. It was now night time, and what Zhao Fu did next was sleep. That's right, he didn't do anything and just went to bed to sleep. No one would have thought of this. Why would he sleep instead of obtaining New Year points? It would just be a waste of time, and others would benefit from it. However, sleeping was actually participating in the New Year's dreamland. After sleeping, one's consciousness would enter the New Year dreamland. The New Year dreamland would only appear during the New Year, and it would open at 8 p.m. Anyone who was sleeping could enter, and it would close at 8 a.m. the next day. There were 12 hours in total, and not only would it allow one to lie comfortably in bed, but it would also allow one to have a good night's sleep. Moreover, one's consciousness would be able to participate in the New Year's dreamland. It could be said that both resting and participating in the New Year's dreamland did not interfere with each other. This was the New Year's dreamland, and it felt quite good. It was used by lazy people, and it felt as if one was lying down and winning a prize. Moreover, the New Year dreamland was not an independent dreamland but a shared dreamland. In other words, everyone could enter and appear in the New Year dreamland. After entering the New Year dreamland, one would not be able to use any skills or powers, including nation armaments, and one would only be able to rely on one's own strength. Zhao Fu did not know what the New Year dreamland was like, but he was quite interested in it. After returning to his room, Zhao Fu found a few female attendants in thin clothes lying on the bed. Seeing that Zhao Fu had woken up, the female attendants prepared to get up. Zhao Fu thought about it and understood, so he had them continue to lie on the bed. They were the Xianbei women from before, and they were quite beautiful. The Xianbei village elder had brought them here, and they had served Zhao Fu for a long time, so they had a good relationship with each other. They were currently warming his bed, and because of the cold weather, the bed was quite cold. If one was alone, it would take a long time for the bed to be warmed up. As such, they had to let someone else sleep on the bed, which meant that they had to warm the bed. This had been around for a long time, and they were commonly referred to as bed-warming maids or bed-warming maid. Zhao Fu very rarely slept lying down, and he normally sat cross-legged on the bed, cultivating as he slept. As such, he did not need them to warm his bed. However, because it was an event today, The female attendants understood this, so they helped Zhao Fu warm his bed so that he could sleep more comfortably. Seeing them like this, Zhao Fu felt a warmth in his heart. Looking at their thin clothes, he did not wake them up in case they caught a cold. After all, the bed was quite big, and it would not be a problem for a few more people to sleep on. Hearing that Zhao Fu did not want them to wake up, the female attendants' faces became slightly red, and they stayed under the blanket. Seeing Zhao Fu take off his outer clothes, their hearts started to beat rapidly. Seeing Zhao Fu take off his blanket and lie down, the female attendants' faces became bright red, and their hearts rapidly thumped. Chapter 547. After entering the New Year dreamland, Zhao Fu's vision started to become hazy, and he could not see clearly what was around him. Soon, his vision became clear, and Zhao Fu found that he was in a boundless white space. His body was floating in the air, and what surprised Zhao Fu was that he had turned into a small beast. The small beasts looked like kittens and their bodies were the same size. However, their appearances were somewhat different. They looked like cheetahs and had large eyes and furry bodies. They did not look scary and instead looked quite cute. Apart from this, even though all of the small beasts looked the same, they all had a black mark on their foreheads. This mark was actually a character in their names that was twisted, making it difficult to tell what the character was. However, it could be used as a special mark to distinguish different Nians. The black mark on Zhao Fu's forehead was a twisted Pu character. Zhao Fu's body was still protected by a white light, and there were many small beasts around him. They floated in the air and spoke to each other, making it quite noisy. Some of the small beasts were chasing a round ball, and after catching it, they would devour it in one mouthful, causing their bodies to become slightly bigger. Some of the small beasts would chase after other small beasts and attack their bottoms. The attacked small beasts would release white bubbles, which would be absorbed by the attacking small beasts. At the same time, the attacking small beasts would become slightly bigger. Zhao Fu quickly received a system announcement and understood that he had become a Nian, and the white light protecting him was a novice's protection. Nians that had just entered the New Year dreamland, as well as those that had revived, would all be protected by this white light. Those round things were glutinous rice balls. There were different types of glutinous rice balls, and they each represented different New Year points. A level 1 glutinous rice ball that gave off a white light gave 10 New Year points. A level 2 glutinous rice ball that gave off a blue light gave 50 New Year points. A level 3 glutinous rice ball that gave off a silver light gave 100 New Year points. The higher the grade of the glutinous rice ball, the more New Year points it would give. Of course, the higher the grade of the glutinous rice ball, the fewer New Year points it would give. After eating the glutinous rice ball, not only would one obtain New Year points, but one's body would also become bigger, and one's power and speed would greatly increase. However, the New Year points that you obtained did not belong to you yet, as they could still be stolen. In other words, they could still be attacked, which was what Zhao Fu had seen. As for the other small beasts, as long as they attacked other small beasts' butts, they would obtain their opponent's New Year points, and their bodies would also become bigger. The little beasts that were attacked would have less and less New Year points, and if they did not have any New Year points and were still attacked, they would die after being attacked 3 times and be revived somewhere else. Only after the New Year dreamland closed would one receive New Year points. Of course, even if one did not receive anything, as long as one participated, they would receive 100 New Year points. Zhao Fu was currently in the novice protection period, so the other small beasts were not interested in Zhao Fu. Some of them were fighting for the glutinous rice balls, while others were attacking other small beasts. The scene was very chaotic. At that moment, Zhao Fu first went to a remote place to prevent himself from being attacked by a group of people after the novice protection disappeared. At the same time, he observed for any opportunities and moved his limbs to get used to Nian's body so that it would be easier for him to move later. Now that Zhao Fu was in the novice protection period, he could not be attacked. Of course, he could not attack others, so he could not eat glutinous rice balls. Time gradually passed, and the white light around Zhao Fu's body became weaker and weaker. Just as it was about to disappear, Zhao Fu started to move. A slightly larger Nian had just attacked a few other Nians and obtained many New Year points, and it was now being chased by a few other Nians. Even though its body was quite big, and it did not lose to any of the Nians in a one-on-one battle, it could not face so many Nians at once, so it could only choose to run. This was the general situation. Unless you were so powerful that not a single Nian dared to attack you, the other Nians would group up and attack you. If you only ate glutinous rice balls, you would also be attacked by others. As such, the most important thing was to protect your butt and not be attacked by others. Only then could you attack others or eat glutinous rice balls. Fudge! If you're so strong, don't run. Your big bro's going to beat your butt, one of the Nians said with a vulgar-looking young man's voice. The Nian running in front said with a middle-aged man's voice and disdainfully replied, "Brat, if you're so strong, come fight me one-on-one. I'll show you what it means to have a butt." Another Nian said with a young man's voice. The other Nians did not say anything else and chased after the middle-aged Nian. The other Nians did not say anything else and chased after the middle-aged Nian. Seeing the Nians chasing after him, the middle-aged Nian could only speed up and run. The other Nians understood that because the middle-aged Nian was big and had an advantage in speed and power, it would be very difficult for them to catch up. As such, they decided to surround him. At that moment, the middle-aged Nian realized their intentions. Of course, he would not let them do as they wished, so he quickly turned and ran in another direction. The other Nians inwardly cursed and could only continue to chase after him. The middle-aged Nian turned and gave a pleased laugh, making the other Nians feel incredibly furious. However, the situation suddenly changed. A Nian with a protective white light rushed to the middle-aged Nian's side. The middle-aged Nian was quite startled. He understood the rules. Nians with protective white light could not attack, and the protective white light could not be removed on their own. They had to wait until the protective time was up. As such, he could not understand why this Nian had run over. However, in the next second, the protective white light around Zhao Fu disappeared, giving the middle-aged Nian a big fright. He hurriedly tried to dodge, but it was too late. Zhao Fu leapt forward and slapped his paw against the middle-aged Nian's butt. 5 bubbles came out of the middle-aged Nian's body and entered Zhao Fu's body. Immediately, Zhao Fu received a system announcement that he had received 50 New Year points. The middle-aged Nian furiously roared and turned around, wanting to attack Zhao Fu. However, Zhao Fu tactfully retreated as soon as his attack landed. After obtaining 50 New Year points, Zhao Fu's body became slightly bigger, while the middle-aged Nian's body became slightly smaller. However, he was still slightly bigger than ordinary Nians, so he most likely had at least 150 New Year points. Zhao Fu ran towards the Nians that had been chasing him. Seeing this, the middle-aged Nian cursed. Once he was surrounded by a few Nians, he would not be able to obtain anything, so he could only turn and continue to run. At that moment, Zhao Fu saw that the middle-aged Nian had stopped chasing him, so he hurriedly ran to the side to prevent the other Nians from attacking him. Chapter 548. Zhao Fu quickly ran and did not care about what was happening behind him, nor did he care if the middle-aged Nian had been killed. After all, running for his life was more important. Zhao Fu already had extraordinary strength, but now that he was the same as a normal person, Zhao Fu felt quite uncomfortable. However, there was nothing he could do about it. The New Year Dreamland cut off all power, and those who entered had to follow its rules. Now that the novice protection was gone, Zhao Fu had to be on his guard, as he could be attacked at any moment. At the same time, Zhao Fu had to find an opportunity to attack. Suddenly, 10 meters in front of Zhao Fu, a white light flashed as a round white orb appeared. It was a level 1 glutinous rice ball, and while there was no one around, Zhao Fu immediately ran over and devoured it. System announcement. You have eaten a level 1 glutinous rice ball and obtained 10 New Year points. After devouring this glutinous rice ball, Zhao Fu's body became slightly bigger. There was no one around Zhao Fu, and 3 more level 1 glutinous rice balls appeared, all of which were monopolized by Zhao Fu. However, with Zhao Fu's current body, he was much bigger than normal Nians, so he quickly became a target. As Zhao Fu continued to search for glutinous rice balls, a Nian stealthily walked towards Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu had discovered it a long time ago, and even though he did not have the same strength as before, his senses were not weak. This Nian was as big as a normal Nian, and it seemed that it had not obtained any New Year points yet. It seemed to be a newborn Nian. Zhao Fu pretended not to notice it and continued to search for glutinous rice balls. The Nian slowly came closer, and soon, there were only 3 meters between them. The Nian crouched down and prepared to attack Zhao Fu. However, at that moment, Zhao Fu suddenly turned around and somersaulted backwards, jumping behind the ambushing Nian. The ambushing Nian was so scared that it immediately ran away. Zhao Fu quickly caught up to it, because he had an advantage in terms of speed and strength. Seeing this, the Nian said in a young girl's voice, which was quite pleasant to hear, "Big bro, I was wrong. I was wrong, please let me go." It was still a girl, but Zhao Fu did not show any mercy because the other party had attacked him first. He extended his claws and slapped the other parties but 3 times in a row. Notification. You have received 5 New Year points. Notification. You have received 5 New Year points. Notification. You have received 5 New Year points. Indeed, attacking these new Nians did not yield much. 1 hit only gave him 5 points, and 3 hits only gave him 15 points. Zhao Fu was quite disappointed. "I'll remember you. Don't let me see you again, or I'll F***ck you to death." The young Nian cursed angrily. Her tone was completely different from when she had begged for mercy. However, after shouting these words, her body slowly disappeared, because she had already been attacked by Zhao Fu 3 times. Zhao Fu couldn't help but laugh when he heard what she said. She actually said she wanted to F***ck me. I wonder if we have that tool. Zhao Fu did not mind too much because the New Year Dreamland was incredibly big, and it was almost impossible to meet her again. After she died, she would most likely revive somewhere else. Following this, Zhao Fu continued to search for glutinous rice balls. At the same time, he found a target. This Nian was twice as big as normal Nians, and it looked quite ferocious as it chased after other Nians. From its size, it was most likely a level 2 Nian. Nians were split into different grades, and the bigger they were, the higher their grade would be. As their grade increased, they could even obtain some skills. Zhao Fu was not in a hurry to act. With his current strength and speed, it would be quite difficult for him to defeat that Nian, so he had to think of a way. At that moment, a Nian that was about as big as Zhao Fu came over and said in a young man's voice, "Friend, how about we work together? Let's work together and see if we can attack it." Hearing this, Zhao Fu nodded. With his current strength, it would be quite difficult for him to attack that Nian, so he agreed to work together. Following this, the two of them discussed before starting to act. The big Nian continued to chase after the other Nian beasts, and because it had a great advantage in speed, it quickly caught up to the escaping Nian beast. With a swipe of its paw, it easily killed one Nian beast before turning its attention to another Nian beast. Just as it was about to attack, a black figure leapt at it. Zhao Fu quickly ran over and swiped at its bottom. However, the Nian seemed to have sensed this, and it suddenly turned and swiped at Zhao Fu, sending Zhao Fu flying. Luckily, it had only hit its bottom, or else Zhao Fu would have died. Seeing Zhao Fu launch a sneak attack, the large Nian coldly laughed and chased after Zhao Fu, wanting to kill Zhao Fu. Looking at Zhao Fu's size, he most likely had many New Year points. However, at that moment, a paw vigorously slapped its bottom. The young man who had been working together with Zhao Fu had acted. He had been waiting for this moment for a long time. After being hit, the large Nian's bottom continuously gave off bubbles, and its body became a bit smaller. After obtaining the bubbles, the young Nian's body became a bit bigger, but the large Nian's body was still much bigger. Facing the young Nian's sneak attack, the large Nian furiously roared and chased after the young Nian. However, at that moment, another paw slapped its bottom. Zhao Fu had turned back and started to attack the large Nian. Because they had planned this beforehand, their teamwork was quite good. After being ambushed again, the large Nian furiously turned around and tried to attack Zhao Fu. However, its body was already as big as Zhao Fu's, and because Zhao Fu had absorbed its bubbles, he had become even bigger. Facing its attack, Zhao Fu did not mind and continued to slap at it. After being hit in the bottom, the large Nian's body gave off a white light. Because it had already been slapped 3 times, it had to revive, and it could only curse before its body disappeared. Zhao Fu obtained 2/3 of its New Year points, and its body became even bigger than ordinary Nian's. It was only slightly smaller than the large Nian from before. The young Nian who had been working together with Zhao Fu ran over and smiled as it said, "Congratulations! You should be a level 2 Nian by now, right?" Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. With his body, he could indeed be counted as a level 2 Nian, and he also received a speed stat. "Should we continue working together then?" the young Nian asked expectantly. Now that Zhao Fu was a level 2 Nian, and adding on the fact that they had worked together before, the young Nian trusted Zhao Fu quite a bit. If he continued working together with Zhao Fu, he would be able to obtain many benefits. Zhao Fu did not hesitate and happily agreed, as this would be beneficial to him as well. Following this, Zhao Fu and the young Nian chased after the other young Nians while eating glutinous rice balls. Soon, the young Nian also became a level 2 Nian. Chapter 549. The young Nian nodded in agreement. Because their time was limited, they could not waste it on these smaller Nian beasts, as they would not be able to obtain enough New Year points. As such, they had to find other larger Nian beasts to obtain more New Year points. Not long after, the two of them found a target which was also a level 2 Nian. It was currently chasing after other smaller Nians, and while it was not discovered, Zhao Fu and Zhao Fu stealthily sneaked over. The level 2 Nian had been too focused on chasing the other smaller Nians, so it hadn't noticed them. By the time it had noticed, it was too late, and it had been surrounded by Zhao Fu and Zhao Fu. The level 2 Nian warily looked at Zhao Fu and said in a hoarse voice, "Can the two of you let me off?" It wasn't easy for them to find their prey, so how could they give up? The young man at the back took the initiative to attack, his body leaping forward. The level 2 Nian immediately ran to the left, and Zhao Fu grasped this opportunity to leap up, sending the level 2 Nian flying. The young man arrived and slapped his paw against the Nian's bottom, causing bubbles to appear on the level 2 Nian's body to shrink. Zhao Fu quickly ran over, and with the young man's help, he smacked its bottom and obtained 150 New Year points. After being attacked twice, the level 2 Nian's body became much smaller, and it was no match for Zhao Fu and the young man. However, in the end, Zhao Fu decided to give it to the young man. After all, he had taken advantage of the big Nian last time, so he decided to give it to the young man this time. However, at that moment a small Nian suddenly attacked Zhao Fu. It was most likely one of the Nian that had been chased by the level 2 Nian, and it wanted to launch a sneak attack while Zhao Fu and the young man were careless. Fortunately, Zhao Fu had discovered it in time. If it had been a young Nian, it would have been easy for him to fall for it, as his attention had been completely focused on the level 2 Nian. Facing the sneak attack from the small Nian, Zhao Fu turned around and ferociously leapt at it. Because Zhao Fu's body was more than twice the size of an ordinary Nian, he was able to completely suppress the Nian. Ah! I failed again. Nian, who was pressed down by Zhao Fu, roared angrily and scratched Zhao Fu with its claws. Zhao Fu was speechless. Why was it her again? No wonder she chose to sneak attack him. That's right, it was the Nian that wanted to kill Zhao Fu. Although Zhao Fu didn't remember her appearance, he still remembered her voice. By now, the young Nian had successfully killed the level 2 Nian, and seeing this scene, he asked curiously, "What's wrong?" Zhao Fu pressed down on the young Nian with his body and smiled. He used his claws to slap her but 3 more times before replying to the young man, "It's nothing. I caught an idiot that wanted to ambush us." The young man didn't mind and simply responded. Because the young Nian had been hit 3 more times, her body gave off a white light and was about to revive. She had been killed again and humiliated like this, causing her to angrily yell, "I'll remember you for the rest of my life." Before she could finish speaking, the young Nian's body disappeared. However, Zhao Fu didn't mind and smirked, not taking her seriously at all. Following this, they continued to kill other level 2 Nians and eat some glutinous rice balls, and their relationship became closer. "I forgot. Friend, what's your name?" the young man asked as he awkwardly smiled. Zhao Fu thought about it and replied that he was called Zhao Xen. Of course, Zhao Fu couldn't reveal his identity, or else it wouldn't be good for him or himself. Following this, Zhao Fu found out that his name was Lu Xinze, and the two of them started to chat. Following this, as they continuously killed level 2 Nians and ate glutinous rice balls, Zhao Fu and Lu Xinze both became level 3 Nians. However, after becoming level 3 Nians, the two of them split up. Level 3 Nians were already top-tier Nians, and most of them were still level 1 Nians. There were very few level 2 Nians, and because there was not much prey for 2 level 3 Nians, they would not be able to obtain many New Year points. As such, it was better for them to split up and take over a region. With their level 3 Nian strength, they would not have many opponents, and they would be able to obtain more New Year points. The level 3 Nian's body was as big as a hunting dog's, and Zhao Fu also obtained 2 bonus stats: strength and protection. There was no need to even mention the strength stat, as it only increased strength by a bit. Protection was a barrier that would appear around Zhao Fu's body after he used it. This barrier's defense was quite average, and it could block 7 or 8 small Nian's attacks. It could only be used once every 10 minutes. After Zhao Fu and Lu Xinze split up, they chose a region and started to hunt level 2 Nians. Ordinary small Nians would run as soon as they saw Zhao Fu, and none of them dared to attack Zhao Fu. The other level 2 Nians also did not dare to stay for long when they saw Zhao Fu. Because of how powerful level 3 Nians were, Zhao Fu was able to easily kill level 2 Nians, and his buttock skills greatly improved. Even though it was quite shameless, that was how the rules were. You could either accept the rules and participate or leave. Soon, Zhao Fu turned his gaze to a level 2 Nian and turned into a black blur as he ran over. The level 2 Nian was given a big fright, and when it saw Zhao Fu's massive body, it immediately chose to run. However, it was all for naught. Level 3 Nians were incredibly fast, so Zhao Fu quickly caught up to it. Zhao Fu skillfully raised his claws and prepared to slap down on its butt. Can you not kill me?" The escaping Nian turned and said in a soft female voice, causing Zhao Fu to pause. This voice was quite familiar. Zhao Fu thought about it but could not remember who it was. However, he was sure that she had gone to the same university as him, or that she was someone he had met while working. However, Zhao Fu's personality was quite eccentric, and he did not have many friends at work or at school. He did not care about others, so many people did not remember him. Seeing that she was someone he knew, Zhao Fu decided to let her off and turned to attack the other level 2 Nians. Seeing Zhao Fu leave, the level 2 Nian had never thought that he would really let her off after just saying that. Seeing him leave, she let out a sigh of relief, and she felt that Zhao Fu seemed quite familiar. "Screw you! Stop chasing me!" A ruffian Nian loudly cursed at Zhao Fu. However, Zhao Fu had no intention of letting him off, and he ferociously leapt over and kicked his butt 3 times. Since he dared to curse at him, Zhao Fu naturally would not treat him well. The ruffian Yen cried out in pain and cursed at Zhao Fu. However, it was a pity that after cursing at him, its body disappeared. Suddenly. Chapter 550. Of course, Zhao Fu also saw the golden glutinous rice ball and immediately rushed over. However, it was a pity that someone else beat him to it, and it was a level 2 Nyen that was nearby. Seeing the golden light around it, the level 2 Nyen stared in surprise before looking delighted. It ran over and devoured the golden glutinous rice ball, and its body continuously grew until it became a level 3 Nyen. Seeing the other Nyens swarming over, the level 3 Nyen loudly roared, scaring the level 1 Nyens into not daring to get close. However, there were 10 or so level 2 Nyens and 2 level 3 Nyens that did not leave and instead stared at the level 3 Nyen that had eaten the golden glutinous rice ball like prey. Zhao Fu did not join in because after seeing the level 3 Nyen devour the golden glutinous rice ball and seeing many Nyens rush over, Zhao Fu stopped and thought about what to do. If he foolishly rushed over, he would not be able to obtain anything and would be attacked by others. Seeing so many Nyens staring at it, the Nyen that had eaten the golden glutinous rice ball turned and ran, and the other Nyens quickly chased after it. A trace of a smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face as he chased after them. However, his target was not the escaping Nyen but the chasing Nyen. Because they were chasing ahead, it would be easy for Zhao Fu to launch a sneak attack from behind. Moreover, with so many Nyens gathered together, he would not have to look around. Pa Zhao Fu caught up to the level 2 Nyens and smacked their bottoms. In just a few moments, he had smacked 6 Nyens to death, and the other level 2 Nyens were so scared that they did not dare to continue and ran in all directions. The 2 level 3 Nyens were also afraid that Zhao Fu would launch a sneak attack from behind, so they could only stop. One of the level 3 Nyens said loudly, "Let's kill this person who's trying to sneak attack us." Seeing that there were 2 level 3 Nyens against 1 level 3 Nyen, the other level 2 Nyens hesitated before turning back and running towards Zhao Fu. They felt quite angry at Zhao Fu for launching a sneak attack, but they also felt that they might be able to obtain some benefit. After all, there were already 2 level 3 Nyens, and with them, it was impossible for them to lose. The level 3 Nyen, which was the Nyen that had eaten the golden glutinous rice ball, also stopped to see if there was an opportunity for it to take advantage of the situation. Although Zhao Fu had just helped him, there was nothing for him to be grateful about. He knew that Zhao Fu only wanted to obtain New Year points. Looking at the Nyen surrounding him, Zhao Fu did not feel any fear and instead loudly laughed. His body gave off a large amount of white light, and his body became as big as a lion. He was now a level 4 Nyen. Seeing Zhao Fu suddenly become a level 4 Nyen, everyone else was shocked, and the Nyens that had been charging at Zhao Fu immediately scattered. It was impossible for Zhao Fu to let them off. In less than a minute, he caught up to 2 level 3 Nyens and ferociously smacked their bottoms, obtaining 1,200 New Year points in total. Following this, Zhao Fu looked at the Nyen that had eaten the golden glutinous rice ball, causing its expression to fall. However, it had long since escaped, and Zhao Fu could not catch up to it. As such, he turned to look at the level 2 Nyens that were closer. In just a few leaps, Zhao Fu caught up to a few level 2 Nyens. Just as he was about to swipe at them, he suddenly felt a small thing attack him from behind. Zhao Fu immediately turned around and pressed it against the ground. "Arg, you bastard, let me go!" the small Nyen said in a familiar young woman's voice. Zhao Fu felt quite frustrated. Why was it this young woman again? That's right, it was the young Nyen that had said that she wanted to do something to Zhao Fu. Now, Zhao Fu's body was as big as a lion, while the young Nyen was the size of a little kitten. Zhao Fu pressed her against the ground, and no matter how hard she struggled, she could not break free. "Bastard! You're hurting me!" the young Nian yelled as she stared at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu smirked. Wasn't she supposed to revive somewhere else after dying? Why had he encountered her again? However, he had already killed her twice, and with Zhao Fu's status as a level 4 Nian, he was not interested in her at all. Zhao Fu let go of her and said, "Go, go, go. I won't kill you this time, and don't come looking for me again. Otherwise, I'll make you pay next time." The young Nian's large eyes were filled with tears, and she looked quite pitiful. Looking at her, Zhao Fu thought for a moment before saying sympathetically, "All right, I'll let you do it once. I'll let you do it once. Are you happy now?" After saying this, Zhao Fu turned around and pointed his bottom at the young Nian. Looking at the bottom that she had been dreaming of, a look of delight appeared on the young Nian's face, and she immediately leapt at it. However, thinking back to Zhao Fu's words, she hesitated. It seemed that Zhao Fu was not a bad person and was quite a good person. It was she who had launched a sneak attack on him, so there was nothing wrong with him killing her. Should she not do it? Thinking about how he had killed her and humiliated her, she felt quite unwilling. After thinking about it, the young Nian decided to pat him a little to vent her anger. The young Nian leapt up from the ground and slapped towards Zhao Fu. As she flew through the air, she thought to herself that perhaps becoming friends with Zhao Fu would not be too bad. However, the situation suddenly changed. Just as the young Nian was about to hit Zhao Fu suddenly turned around and stretched out his paw, sending the young Nian flying. He could not help but loudly laugh as he said, "You really are an idiot. How could you believe something like that? Arg! I'm going to kill you." After being humiliated by him and deceived by him, she felt that she had believed that he was a good person. The young Nian was furious to the point of going crazy and rushed at Zhao Fu, wanting to bite off a few pieces of Zhao Fu's flesh. Seeing her rush at him, Zhao Fu killed her in a few hits. He had wanted to let her go, but she still wanted to pat him. How could Zhao Fu let her do that? However, she definitely hated him to death. Zhao Fu did not mind and did not believe that he would meet her again. Even if he met her again, he would just kill her again. Zhao Fu continued to kill level 2 Nians and continuously obtained New Year point. Now that Zhao Fu had become a level 4 Nian, he had obtained a stat called Strengthened Senses, which allowed him to sense his surroundings and prevent any danger. With this stat, it would be very difficult for him to be ambushed. Now that Zhao Fu was a level 4 Nian, he was one of the most powerful Nians. However, he felt that the number of New Year points he had obtained was quite small, and he wondered if there was any way for him to obtain New Year points. Just as Zhao Fu was thinking to himself, outside the New Year dreamland, Zhao Fu's body lay on the bed, and the female attendants were all asleep. The golden dragon could sense Zhao Fu's thoughts, so it opened its eyes and said to the 4 swords by the bed, "Do you want to help your master?" The 4 swords lightly trembled and gave off different lights. The first to speak was the slaughtering ghost sword. "Do you have any way to help my master?" Chapter 551. Within the New Year dreamland, Zhao Fu was thinking about how to obtain a large number of New Year points. However, he suddenly felt an intense pain in his head, and it was as if something had drilled into his head. This intense pain caused Zhao Fu to be unable to bear it, and he powerlessly fell to the ground and moaned in pain. Seeing such a massive Nian fall to the ground in pain, the other Nians all ran over, attracting many level 2 and level 3 Nians. It was evident that Zhao Fu had lost his ability to fight, and with his massive body, killing him would give them large amounts of New Year points. People died for wealth, so countless Nians swarmed over. However, no one dared to make a move. After all, a level 4 Nian was one of the most powerful existences in the New Year dreamland, and they were worried that Zhao Fu was faking it. After all, they were fine, so why did Zhao Fu look like he was in so much pain? However, were they just going to look at such a big piece of meat? The group of Nians hesitated, but at that moment, a small Nian quickly rushed out and slapped Zhao Fu's butt before immediately retreating. Large amounts of bubbles flowed out of Zhao Fu's body and entered the small Nian's body. In just an instant, the small Nian's body doubled in size and became a level 2 Nian. Seeing this scene, the countless Nian's eyes became red. They were now sure that Zhao Fu did not have much battle power, and indeed, Zhao Fu's head was in too much pain to care about anything else. The countless Nians flooded towards Zhao Fu, about to inundate Zhao Fu. However, at that moment, Zhao Fu's head stopped hurting, and 4 rays of sword light appeared in his mind. These 4 rays of sword light gave off different lights and different auras, but Zhao Fu could sense that they were his 4 swords. Zhao Fu opened his eyes and looked at the incoming Nians, and his gaze became cold as he sent out 4 rays of sword light. 4 rays of sword light shot out from 4 different directions, bringing with them a large wave of sword light. In just an instant, the large amount of sword light killed the countless incoming Nian beasts. Seeing this terrifying scene, the surrounding Nian beasts scattered in fear, and a large area around Zhao Fu became empty. At that moment, Zhao Fu's body gave off a large amount of white light. Indeed, even though Zhao Fu had been padded, the 4 sword lights had killed countless Nians, including many level 2 and level 3 Nians, causing Zhao Fu to level up into a level 5 Nian. The level 5 Nian was as big as a cow and gave off even greater power. At the same time, the light that Zhao Fu's body gave off was not white but rainbow-colored light. Now, the light that Zhao Fu gave off made him look like a divine beast. Zhao Fu was quite curious, and only after looking at the system announcement did he understand what was going on. The level 5 Nian had given him a bloodline attribute. In other words, the bloodline of the body outside the New Year Dreamland could affect the body of the current Nian. With Zhao Fu's sovereign bloodline, it was no surprise that he gave off a rainbow-colored light. With this bloodline attribute, Zhao Fu's body's various abilities became stronger, and the other stats that he had obtained from before also became much stronger. After becoming a level 5 Nian, Zhao Fu was almost invincible, and he could now control sword lights to carry out large-scale massacres. He did not need to directly chase after Nians, and he could directly use sword lights to kill them to obtain New Year points. Zhao Fu did not know what was going on, but it was as if he had been given a cheat, and he madly slaughtered, causing his New Year points to increase at a shocking rate. Suddenly, a violet glutinous rice ball appeared, giving off a violet light that covered the surroundings. Seeing this, countless Nians excitedly rushed over, as the violet glutinous rice ball could obtain 1,200 New Year points. This time, Zhao Fu had long since set up an ambush. Seeing the large number of Nians charging over, he loudly laughed as he sent out 4 rays of sword light, which gave off sharp sword winds as they shot towards the countless Nians. Seeing Zhao Fu's figure, the countless Nians were given a fright and immediately turned to run, yelling, "The big Nian is over there! Everyone, don't go!" The big Nian was naturally Zhao Fu. With Zhao Fu's massive body and terrifying abilities, as well as his unique rainbow-colored light, he had become the nightmare of countless Nians. Because Nians could continuously revive, many people knew about Zhao Fu. As such, as soon as the charging Nians heard Zhao Fu's name, they all ran in panic, not daring to fight over the violet glutinous rice ball. It could be seen how terrified Zhao Fu was. However, they were unable to escape, and Zhao Fu caught up to them. His 4 rays of sword light flashed back and forth, killing a large number of Nians. The remaining Nians were scared out of their wits and continuously ran away. In the end, seeing that there was no one around, Zhao Fu put away his sword light and swallowed the violet glutinous rice ball. System announcement: You have swallowed the violet glutinous rice ball and obtained 1,200 New Year points. System announcement: You have leveled up to level 6 Nian. Just as Zhao Fu ate the violet glutinous rice ball, he received 2 system announcements. His body once again became as big as an elephant, and the aura he gave off became even more intense. At the same time, Zhao Fu obtained another attribute, Beast King Domain. Within the Beast King domain, Zhao Fu's various abilities would become stronger, and anyone who stepped into Zhao Fu's Beast King domain would have their stats reduced. After becoming a level 6 Nian, Zhao Fu's power was not something that the 5 of them could contend against. He continued to madly slaughter Nians, bringing with him a rain of blood. Wherever he went, he would not leave a single Nian alive. 7 or 8 hours later, Zhao Fu's body was 20 meters tall, and he looked like a small mountain. He gave off a terrifying aura, and when ordinary Nians saw Zhao Fu from afar, they would immediately run. Now, Zhao Fu was a level 9 Nian, and he was definitely a top-tier existence. No one could rival him. At this point, Zhao Fu deeply felt how lonely it was to be invincible, and he had fewer targets. Zhao Fu did not even want to attack a few hundred Nians, and he could only wander around in the New Year Dreamland, looking for large groups of Nians. Suddenly, Zhao Fu saw a familiar figure and lightly smiled as he leapt up and landed behind a small Nian. The little Nian looked quite happy as she ate a glutinous rice ball, but the figure that had suddenly appeared caused her to immediately run. This was because she felt that the aura behind her was simply too powerful, and it was at the level of a monster. Seeing that she wanted to run, Zhao Fu stretched out a claw and pressed her against the ground. At that moment, the small Nian turned and looked at the massive figure in terror. Because Zhao Fu was 10 or so times bigger than before, the small Nian only came back to her senses after looking at him for a while. She continuously waved her claws and angrily yelled, "It's you again! I'm going to screw you!" Chapter 552. Time gradually passed, and soon, it was time for the New Year Dreamland to close. Everyone had made great gains. A Nian giving off golden light swallowed a violet glutinous rice ball and gave a domineering roar, causing the other Nians to not dare to get close. This was because they understood how powerful the other side was, and this was especially so for Nians that gave off different light. Ordinary Nians that gave off blue light could defeat 2 Nians of the same level, while Nians that gave off silver light could defeat 5 Nians of the same level. They had personally seen this Nian giving off golden light defeat 10 Nian beasts of the same level by itself. It was incredibly terrifying and made them feel fear. From what they could see, golden Nians were the most terrifying existences, and not a single one of them was a match for them. This golden Nian was actually Great Shang's legatee, Di Wutian. Looking at the fearful gazes around him, Di Wutian gave a pleased and confident smile before leaping up and killing other Nians. Apart from Di Wutian, the other dynasty legatees were all golden Nians, and they gave off powerful auras, causing all of the Nians they saw to run away, not daring to stay. Of course, this sort of power gave them immense confidence. System announcement. The New Year Dreamland is about to close, and the Dreamland rankings will be announced. The top 1,000 people will receive all sorts of rewards. A system announcement sounded out in everyone's minds, following which a massive stone stele appeared in the sky. Everyone's names appeared on it, as well as their New Year points. There's a rankings? Zhao Fu felt quite surprised, and he received a system announcement and chose to hide his information. Rank 1. Unknown, 580,000 New Year points. Rank 2. Ji Shinming, 140,000 New Year points. Rank 3. Tina Pendragon, 120,000 New Year points. Rank 4. CG, 110,000 New Year points. The list of names, as well as the New Year points, caused countless people to stare dumbfounded. They had been fighting for 10 or so New Year points, but the others had already obtained more than 100,000 New Year points. It would have been fine if the rankings had not been announced, but once they were announced, everyone was given a big fright. There was a difference of 440,000 New Year points between first and second place. Was the person in first about to die? How could he obtain so many New Year points? This was too shocking. However, although the first place didn't show his name, countless people curled their lip. They didn't know what Crown Prince Qin was trying to do. When they saw that Crown Prince Qin's name wasn't in the top 10, they naturally knew who the first-place person was. If Crown Prince Qin couldn't enter the top 10, they wouldn't believe it even if they were beaten to death. Therefore, Crown Prince Qin would definitely be the first. There was no doubt. Zhao Fu's shocking number of New Year points caused the expressions of the other legatees to become unsightly. The gap between them was simply too great, and if it wasn't for the snow blocking the roads, they would have given the order to attack Qin City at all costs. Zhao Fu wasn't surprised by the fact that he was ranked first. He felt at ease. Following this, the New Year Dreamland closed, and a large red box appeared in Zhao Fu's hand. Zhao Fu's consciousness gradually returned to his body. However, just as his consciousness returned to his body, Zhao Fu felt his body sink, and there seemed to be something in his mouth that continuously moved. He opened his eyes. He saw Long Xiaoxiao pressing down on him with her hands holding his head. Her eyes were closed, and she was kissing him with a flushed, greedy, and forgetful expression. She was making moaning sounds, and it was her tongue that was moving in his mouth. Zhao Fu immediately furrowed his brows. Long Xiaoxiao seemed to sense something, and she suddenly opened her eyes. Seeing that Zhao Fu had woken up, she was so scared that she turned into a ray of green light and entered the Sin Dragon sword. She guiltily explained, "Owner, I'm quite worried." She guiltily explained, "Owner, I'm adding a status for you, don't misunderstand." Zhao Fu thought back to the 4 rays of sword light from before and understood why there had been 4 rays of sword light in his mind. However, Zhao Fu looked at Long Xiaoxiao suspiciously. "This is a secret technique of the Heaven Murder Empire. I said before that the Heaven Murder Empire has countless secret techniques, and any one of them will be of great help to you. You won't regret working with me, right? However, this kind of festival is a gift from the heavens to the Legacy Land, so you must grasp this opportunity and obtain benefits from it. This kind of festival can't be repeated in the future, and it can only happen once. Once it happens, it will never happen again. It can give you many benefits, but it's also the greatest obstacle to helping you. If you don't obtain these things, it's very likely that you'll be slaughtered in the future." The Golden Dragon's voice suddenly sounded out within Zhao Fu's body, explaining to Zhao Fu. Hearing this, Zhao Fu nodded. Because he had obtained information about the demon god, he naturally knew more than ordinary people, so he knew what would happen next. Hearing the Golden Dragon's explanation, Long Xiaoxiao let out a sigh of relief, and her goodwill towards it greatly increased. The other 3 swords didn't say anything, making Long Xiaoxiao feel at ease. She told them that she would get along well with them in the future. The Sky Demon stayed within the sword and didn't mind much, but the other 2 women's faces became slightly red. Zhao Fu quickly changed his mind and did not pay too much attention to this matter. He chatted with the Golden Dragon about what might happen in the future before looking at the redwood box in his hand. This was the reward for placing first in the New Year Dreamland, and Zhao Fu felt quite expectant. He opened the redwood box, and a blinding white light shot out. Following this, a snow-white sword that gave off a faint holy light appeared in front of Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu took it and looked at its stats. Light sword, grade. Epic, stats. Strength plus 20, Intelligence plus 20, Constitution plus 15, Agility plus 15. Description: a sword forged from light stones that contains powerful holy light attribute energy. It was another sword, and it was an epic grade weapon. Even though it was only an ordinary epic grade weapon, it was far more powerful than a legendary grade weapon. It was a pity that Daisy used a magic staff, or else he could have given this sword to her. Following this, Zhao Fu went to the exchange stone steel. Qin City now had 4 million or so people, and because they were all indigenous residents of a faction, they could use New Year points. As such, Zhao Fu had collected all of Qin City's New Year points. Anyone who participated in the New Year Dreamland would receive 100 New Year points, and with Qin City's population of 4 million, he would receive at least 440 million New Year points. Zhao Fu had actually obtained 500 million or so New Year points. In front of such a monstrous amount of New Year points, the amount that Zhao Fu had obtained by himself was not even a drop in the bucket. It seemed that this event relied on everyone, and individual strength was incredibly weak. Chapter 553. After obtaining the General Medallion, Zhao Fu did not use it for now and put it away because he thought of something else. Rather than obtaining a special attribute by killing so many Nian beasts, it would be better for all of Qin's residents to obtain this attribute. A single person's gains would definitely not be as good as a group's, so Zhao Fu asked the Golden Dragon what he could do. The Golden Dragon's reply was quite straightforward and said that he could use the 8 absolute sword formation, which would allow everyone to control a trace of sword qi. Even though this trace of sword qi would not be very powerful, it would still be quite useful. The prerequisite was that Zhao Fu would not be able to obtain that powerful sword qi from before, and he would need 8 top-tier swords to unleash the 8 absolute sword formation. When Zhao Fu heard the Golden Dragon's words, he felt quite happy. He had indeed obtained a treasure trove, and even something that was almost impossible could be done. Of course, Zhao Fu did not have the sword qi from before, but this was acceptable. After all, Zhao Fu's gains would definitely not be as great as everyone else's combined. However, it was impossible for him to obtain first place in the New Year Dreamland, and he still needed 8 top-tier swords. Zhao Fu thought about how he already had 4, and his sword was definitely a top-tier sword. Bai Qi's 7 Murders sword, Wang Jian's Army Destroyer sword, and Wei Liao's Greedy Wolf sword were also top-tier swords. Zhao Fu suddenly thought of the Radiant sword that he had just obtained, but the Golden Dragon said that it was too weak and did not meet the requirements. An ordinary epic grade sword was still too weak, and Zhao Fu could not say anything about it. After ordering people to see if they could gather the last sword, Zhao Fu turned his attention back to the day activities. Zhao Fu had said that the New Year activities were split into day and night activities. The night activities were the New Year Dreamland, which could be completed while lying on a bed. As for the daytime activities, he needed to be active. The New Year's chicken, duck, and fish definitely could not be missing. The day activities had to catch these, but the format was quite strange. First of all, you have to open the door. Closing the door in the New Year is a taboo, because if you can't enter the New Year, you will have bad luck. After opening the door, there might be golden chickens, golden ducks, golden fishes, and golden pigs in every house. If one grabbed these items, they would be able to obtain New Year gifts, but they would not receive New Year points. However, New Year gifts could give all sorts of things. There was also the golden rooster, golden duck, golden fish, and golden pig. They would only appear 8 times in total, and they would only stay for 8 minutes. If they were not caught, they would disappear after 8 minutes. These golden chickens and ducks would also appear in Zhao Fu's city hall. Zhao Fu was quite interested in this, so he decided to take a look first. Soon, a golden pheasant appeared in the city lord's mansion. Because the city lord's mansion was very big, the golden pheasants and ducks that appeared were also bigger than normal. The golden pheasant that appeared in front of Zhao Fu was 2 meters tall, and its body gave off a bright golden light. Its eyes looked quite intelligent, as if it had a life of its own. After appearing, the golden pheasant moved incredibly quickly. It spread its wings and turned into a ray of golden light as it flew everywhere. A golden pheasant of this level would definitely be quite difficult to catch. However, it was still quite simple for Zhao Fu. Looking at the golden pheasant flying everywhere, Zhao Fu grabbed at the air, and a formless hand instantly grabbed the golden pheasant. After grabbing the golden pheasant gave an ear-piercing cry that was filled with joy and not desolation. Following this, its body turned into motes of golden light and disappeared, leaving behind a small fortune pouch. This fortune pouch was the same as the one from the previous night. Zhao Fu grabbed the small fortune pouch and opened it to find a gold-grade material. Only a gold-grade item? Zhao Fu felt quite disappointed. After waiting for a while, a golden pig appeared in the city lord's mansion. This pig was 2 meters long and gave off a golden light. It rampaged through the city lord's mansion, but it was quickly caught by Zhao Fu. In the end, Zhao Fu still obtained a gold-grade item. Zhao Fu wasn't interested at all, so he gave up on catching golden pheasants and ducks and left them to his subordinate. Zhao Fu focused on the 8 absolute sword formation, but he was quite worried about the final sword. Without the final sword, he wouldn't be able to set up the 8 absolute sword formation, and he wouldn't be able to maximize Qin's benefits. Since ordinary epic grade swords couldn't meet the requirements, they had to be at least ordinary epic grade or above. This would be quite difficult to obtain, as ordinary legendary grade weapons were incredibly rare, let alone epic grade equipment. Zhao Fu went to the exchange stone steel and saw that many general medallions and general fates had already been exchanged. Time was of the essence, and Zhao Fu had a feeling that the second-ranked general medallion was in danger. Suddenly, Zhao Fu thought of something and couldn't help but laugh. He had almost forgotten that he had obtained a seraph heart. This seraph heart had powerful holy light power, and the radiant sword also represented holy light power. If he fused the two of them, the radiant sword's stats would greatly increase, and it would definitely be able to meet the requirements and set up the 8 absolute sword formation. Thinking about that, Zhao Fu didn't hesitate and went to an empty area by himself. He took out the seraph heart and the radiant sword and fused them together. The seraph heart slowly fused into the radiant sword, causing it to continuously tremble and give off a clear sword hum. Boom! An explosion sounded out as the radiant sword turned into a ray of white light and shot into the sky. It then turned into a massive orb of light that floated in the air and gave off an incredibly powerful aura. The orb of light started to give off a white holy light. This light wasn't very intense, but it contained some warmth, especially in this winter. Within the orb of light, a figure gradually appeared. In that instant, countless rays of white light descended from the sky, and the orb of light turned into motes of white light that floated down. An angel appeared. She was tall and slim, and she had long, golden hair and a pair of golden eyes. She was quite beautiful and wore a white robe. There were 3 pairs of pure white wings on her back, and she gave off a holy, pure, and warm feeling. She lightly spread her wings and descended with the countless motes of white light. When she came before Zhao Fu, she warmly hugged Zhao Fu's head and lightly kissed Zhao Fu's forehead as she gave a brilliant smile and said, "Master, may the light be with you." Zhao Fu couldn't help but lightly laugh. How could the light be with him? He stretched out his hand, and the seraph heart turned into a sword and floated in the air. This made Long Xiaoxiao feel quite envious. Why was this person so open and aboveboard? Moreover, she hadn't made Zhao Fu angry. Zhao Fu looked at the sword closely. It seemed to be made of platinum and was 1 meter long. The blade was quite thin, and it was only 2 fingers wide. At the point where the blade and hilt met was a pair of wings. Even though it didn't seem sharp, it gave off a warm and powerful feeling. Chapter 554. The radiant sword's name became the Seraph Sword, and Zhao Fu put it away. Now that he had 4 swords, he could not equip a 5th one. The Seraph Sword did not express any dissatisfaction, and it smiled as it respected Zhao Fu's decisions. This made Zhao Fu feel quite apologetic. Even though Zhao Fu's power leaned towards darkness, King's power was neither good nor evil, so Zhao Fu could use the Seraph Sword. At the same time, the Seraph Sword did not express any malice towards the Sky Demon Sword, making Zhao Fu feel quite surprised. After all, demons and angels were mortal enemies, and even the Sky Demon Sword strongly disliked the Seraph Sword because it instinctively disliked the holy light attribute. Zhao Fu thought about it and found an item called a sword armament. This sword armament had just been obtained from the New Year's event, and it was a gold-grade item. The sword armament was quite special. It was a sword storage mark, which meant that it could store swords. A mark would appear on one's body, and it was similar to a spatial ring. However, it was quite different from a spatial ring. The swords within the sword armament could freely enter and leave, and they could be used in places where spatial rings were forbidden. Moreover, it could maintain the swords themselves. Zhao Fu used the sword armament, and a sword mark appeared on the back of his hand. Zhao Fu looked at the space within the mark and found that there were 42 rectangular spaces, which could store 42 swords. Now that he used the sword armament, he could store all of his swords. The other swords did not have much of an opinion about the sword armament, as it was more or less the same as Zhao Fu wearing it. However, Zhao Fu decided to try it out first. He started to put the 5 swords into the sword armament, and the sword mark on the back of his hand flashed as 5 sword lights shot out. 5 swords that gave off different powers floated in front of Zhao Fu, allowing Zhao Fu to choose which one he wanted. Zhao Fu felt that this was quite good. He had gathered the final sword for the 8 absolute sword formation. Now it was time to set up the 8 absolute sword formation. After all, Zhao Fu was not going to participate in the golden chicken catching event, so he had the time. He gathered all kinds of materials and drew all kinds of lines on an empty piece of land in the city, forming a 1,000-meter-long formation. He used crystals as a power source. Zhao Fu then asked for the other swords from Bai Qi and the others. The 8 swords stabbed into 8 different parts of the magic formation, each giving off a brilliant sword light that fused into the magic formation. The magic formation also gave off 8 different sword lights, giving off an incredibly dangerous aura. The 8 absolute sword formation was finally completed, but it had not been activated yet, so Zhao Fu activated it to see what would happen. Boom! A booming sound rang out, and a massive tidal wave of sword chi surged out, almost destroying everything within a radius of 10,000 meters. The sword chi wreaked havoc, and sword marks appeared on the ground. The sharp aura caused people's hearts to tremble. The 8 absolute sword formation would not be able to Saint Dynasty 8 sword formation 4, but Saint Realm had Fu's son Saint. Zhao Fu felt that the 8 absolute sword formation was not very important, and he could leave the rewards to others. Seeing that he had some time, Zhao Fu gathered everyone to discuss how to deal with the invasion of the Great Qin army. Now, after the new year, they would definitely attack. There were simply too many of them, and Qin was unable to deal with them. Moreover, regardless of whether they won or lost, everyone else had already achieved their goal. The meeting continued until the New Year Dreamland opened, and Zhao Fu asked the Golden Dragon. After obtaining the final answer, he ordered people to set up the 8 absolute sword formation, and Zhao Fu entered the New Year Dreamland. After entering the New Year Dreamland, Zhao Fu became a little Nian again, and everything had to start anew. However, there was now a white sword chi within Zhao Fu's body. This white sword chi was not as powerful as the 4 sword lights from before, which could instantly kill an enemy. This white sword chi was only effective if it hit an enemy's butt. However, it could be used as a long-range attack, which was much better than a group of Nian beasts that could only attack at close range. This gave Zhao Fu a massive advantage. After the protective white light disappeared, Zhao Fu started to kill. He hid in the distance and attacked while others were not paying attention. While others were not paying attention, he released sword chi to attack their butts. Because the sword chi was quite sharp, stabbing into their butts felt quite painful, causing the Nian beasts to howl in fear. Because Zhao Fu's methods were quite secretive, a formless but stabbing demon appeared. Zhao Fu looked quite innocent as he mixed in with the Nian beasts and continuously released sword chi. Even though he gained more and more New Year points and Zhao Fu's body became bigger and bigger, He was still discovered in the end and was chased by thousands of Nian beasts. Facing so many Nian beasts, Zhao Fu had no choice but to run. Luckily, with his speed, he was able to shake them all off. Following this, Zhao Fu encountered a familiar person, Lu Xinzi. Zhao Fu had never thought that he would meet him again, and Zhao Fu felt quite surprised. He chatted with Lu Xinzi for a while and decided to continue working together. After growing to a certain level, they would split up. Without the 4 sword lights, Zhao Fu could not go on a rampage like before, and his growth speed became much slower. Moreover, the white sword qi was only effective against level 1 and level 2 Nians, as level 3 Nians already had protective barriers. Zhao Fu could understand this. Even though the sword qi was not very powerful, almost everyone in Qin City had it. With this kind of sword qi, they had a great advantage, and the most important thing was for the team. As such, Zhao Fu did not care too much about his personal gains and losses. After becoming a level 5 Nian and awakening his bloodline, the speed at which Zhao Fu obtained New Year points became much faster. With his powerful bloodline's bonuses, Zhao Fu was able to suppress existences of the same level. There was once when 10 or so level 5 Nians looked at Zhao Fu with displeasure because the rainbow light he gave off was too dazzling. As such, they allied together and wanted to attack Zhao Fu. Facing 10 or so level 5 Nians, Zhao Fu did not panic. After all, he had a sovereign bloodline and his stats were many times stronger than theirs. As long as he was not surrounded by them and did not give them a chance to attack together, Zhao Fu would be invincible. As such, in front of Zhao Fu's immense strength and speed, these 10 or so Nians were defeated and killed by Zhao Fu, causing Zhao Fu to become a level 6 Nian. Time quickly passed, and before Zhao Fu could react, it was time for the New Year Dreamland to end. However, this time, Zhao Fu's gains were not very good. He did not become a top-tier level 9 Yen like before and was only a level 7 Yen. System announcement. The New Year Dreamland is about to close. The top 1,000 people will receive various rewards. Number 1. Tina Pendragon, 190,000 New Year points. Number 2. CG, 160,000 New Year points. Number 3. Ji Shinming, 140,000 New Year points. Chapter 555. What was even more surprising was that Great Qin's legatee was not in the top 10. After all, the top 10 were all dynasty legatees, and none of them were hidden. This proved that Great Qin's legatee was not in the top 10. Not only were China's factions surprised, but the entire world was also surprised. They had been suppressed by Qin for a long time, and now that they had surpassed Qin, they could not believe it and felt that this was unreal. How could legatee Qin not enter the top 10? On the first day, he had suppressed everyone with 580,000 New Year points, making it hard for them to breathe. As such, they had been forced to think of all sorts of ways to obtain New Year points, which was why they had such gains. However, legatee Qin, who had performed extraordinarily on the first day, did not even enter the top 10 on the second day. This caused countless factions to come back to their senses. Following this, they started to loudly laugh. They had finally defeated Qin and were no longer under that immense pressure. As such, they felt much better. Qin has become such a piece of trash, he's suppressed by us. Brothers, let's go drink. We've beaten Qin to death this time. Haha, Qin is only SOSO. I thought he was strong, but he can't even enter the top 10. He's just trash. I'm so happy. I can actually step on Qin's head. Where can I pee? Zhao Fu had no idea what they were thinking, but seeing that Great Qin wasn't doing well, they went crazy with joy and continuously mocked Great Qin. It was most likely that they had been suppressed by Great Qin for too long, and they had vented all of their frustrations today. However, this was the truth. No matter what, Qin had not entered the top 10, which meant that they had won. However, they did not know that this was something that Zhao Fu had given to them. If Zhao Fu had wanted to take first place, none of them would have been able to do so. However, Zhao Fu cared about the team's gains, so he had given up on his own gains. There were also some people who didn't realize the crisis. The others had already won first place, which meant that they had started to exert their strength. It was still unknown whether Huaxiao would still be in the lead. On the other hand, they were still fighting among themselves, hoping to eliminate Qin. Of course, they didn't care about it. How could Zhao Fu care about it? It was enough for him to protect the safety of his Qin people and not be humiliated. Since they didn't treat Qin as one of their own, Qin wouldn't be so kind to treat them as one of his own, and he wouldn't help them in the future. This time, Zhao Fu was not even in the top 50, and he was only ranked 58. It seemed that they had all had their own fortuitous encounters, or else they would not have been able to obtain so many New Year points. Zhao Fu sighed and closed the mirror world, and Zhao Fu's consciousness returned to his body. Now it was time to collect all of the New Year points. After hearing about this, Zhao Fu was given a big fright. This time, Qin had obtained 2 billion New Year points, which was simply too shocking. Zhao Fu couldn't help but feel quite happy, but he quickly calmed himself down and went to the exchange stone steel. Apart from Zhao Fu, no one else had touched the 10 general medallions because they didn't have enough New Year points. However, it was already the second day and they definitely had enough New Year points. As such, Zhao Fu couldn't hesitate and didn't want them to take everything. After coming to the exchange stone steel, Zhao Fu saw that the general medallion was still there and let out a sigh of relief. Just as he was about to exchange for the second-ranked general medallion, a violet light flashed, and the second-ranked general medallion disappeared. This gave Zhao Fu a big fright, and he hurriedly exchanged for the third-ranked general medallion. However, the fourth-ranked and fifth-ranked general medallions immediately disappeared. Damn it! The parallel world's Wang Jian has been claimed by someone else. Zhao Fu inwardly cursed and hurriedly exchanged for the sixth-ranked general medallion. However, the violet light flashed again, and the seventh-ranked and eighth-ranked general medallions also disappeared. Zhao Fu couldn't waste any time, and he felt incredibly nervous. He quickly exchanged for the ninth-ranked general medallion and the 10th-ranked general medallion. However, the violet light flashed again, and Zhao Fu's heart sank. Suddenly, another general medallion appeared in his hand. It was the 10th-ranked general medallion. Zhao Fu felt as if he had risen from hell to heaven, and his body was covered with sweat. He had thought that it had been claimed by someone else, but it turned out that it had been him. Zhao Fu had 2 billion New Year points, and exchanging for 4 general medallions was no problem at all. After all, the first-ranked general medallion was only worth 500 million New Year points, and the lower-ranked general medallions were definitely worth less. What Zhao Fu had been afraid of the most was that he still had a large amount of New Year points, but the things he wanted had already been claimed. He felt as if he had nowhere to spend his money. Luckily, he had obtained 4 general medallions. The first one was from the third-ranked general Bai Shihan, the second was from the sixth-ranked general Wei Qing, the third was from the ninth-ranked general Li Mu, and the fourth was from the 10th-ranked general Su Liui. Now, all of the 10 general medallions had been claimed. Adding on the ones that he had obtained on the first day, Qin had obtained 5 general medallions. He could summon 5 generals, 4 of whom were women and 1 of whom was a man. Of course, Zhao Fu did not discriminate against women. These 5 generals were all great generals and would be of great help to Great Qin. Moreover, they all had general stars. Now, it was time to summon them. Everyone else felt quite curious about the parallel world's characters, and they stood around Zhao Fu, wanting to take a look. Zhao Fu took out 5 general medallions and casually tossed them out. The general medallions gave off large amounts of white light as 5 figures gradually appeared before everyone. The first was a woman who wore men's clothes. She had a pretty face and a graceful figure, and she gave off a steady and dignified aura. She was Sun Hanxiang. The second was also a woman who wore white clothes. She was incredibly beautiful, but her face was incredibly cold, making it seem as if no one dared to get close. This was especially so given the faint killing intent in her eyes. She was Bai Shihan. The third was also a woman. She wore a suit of armor and had top-notch looks. Her skin was the color of wheat, and she gave off a valiant aura. She was naturally Wei Qing. The fourth was a young man. He had a clean and white face and wore a gray robe. He gave off the aura of a general, and he was Li Mu. The last was a young woman who also wore a suit of armor. She had a mature figure and tender skin, and she gave off a unique aura. She was also quite beautiful. She was Su Liui. Chapter 556. This meant that they could defect at any moment. After all, their loyalty was only 50, which meant that their attitude towards Qin was neither good nor bad. Once their loyalty fell below 50, it was possible for them to defect. If their loyalty fell below 0, they would definitely leave, and there was no way to stop them. Zhao Fu was quite surprised that their loyalty was not 100. After all, Bai Qi and the others were all loyal to Zhao Fu. No matter what Zhao Fu told them to do, they would resolutely carry out Zhao Fu's orders and would never disobey them. However, they were not loyal to Zhao Fu, and Zhao Fu understood. After all, they came from a parallel world, so how could they compare to Bai Qi and the others? Bai Qi and the others were in a deep slumber within Qin's legacy, so they were naturally 100% loyal to Qin. However, they came from a parallel world and came from different factions, so it was impossible for them to be 100% loyal to Qin. Your Majesty, what is it? Xianru asked when she saw that Zhao Fu's expression was quite unsightly. Zhao Fu told her about this, and Xianru smiled as she said, Your Majesty, you should take them into the palace. Even if they aren't willing at first, they'll become your women in the end, and they'll definitely work for you. Moreover, they are all great generals, and not only do they have general fate, but because they are women, they have massive amounts of phoenix chi. Their fate is not any weaker than the Empress' fate. Not only can they help you expand your territory, but they can also help you consolidate your kingdom, Your Highness. Your Majesty, you can't have too much of this. After hearing Xianru's words, Zhao Fu hesitated as he asked, Is this really good? Xianru understood what Zhao Fu was thinking, and she slightly bowed as she said, Your Majesty, it's best to look at the big picture. This way, not only will you be able to subdue them, but you will also be able to provide Phoenix Chi for the Emperor Phoenix statue. Alright. Zhao Fu looked at the 5 people in front of him and said, Now that you are Qin's generals, I won't mistreat any of you in the future. You can treat me as a friend or a relative. I will also treat you the same way. After hearing these sincere words, the 5 people's loyalty did not change at all. Even though what Zhao Fu said was true, if anyone treated him sincerely, he would treat them sincerely as well. However, the 5 of them were all great generals, and they would not judge Zhao Fu based on just a few words. As such, they remained cautious and doubtful. Zhao Fu understood this, so he once again said, Shang Yang, Li Li. Tell Li Mu about Great Qin's current situation. As for you 4, come with me. Sun Hanxiang and the other 3 women looked at each other. They still hadn't guessed Zhao Fu's intentions, so they followed Zhao Fu to the hall. Xianru followed by Zhao Fu's side. After entering the hall, Xianru took out a brush and started to write on a piece of paper. Zhao Fu looked at the 4 of them and did not hesitate as he said, I want you to become my concubines. These words caused the 4 women's expressions to fall. They had never thought that Zhao Fu's goal would be this. They were all generals, yet he did not care about their talents and abilities at all. Instead, he lusted after their beauty. Was such a licentious ruler worth serving? Sun Hanxiang, Wei Qing, and Su Liui's loyalty fell to 0, meaning that they had decided not to serve Zhao Fu anymore and had chosen to escape. Zhao Fu could not help but sigh. He had expected this. However, what surprised Zhao Fu was that Bai Shihan's loyalty had increased by 10 points and was now at 60. What was going on? Could it be that Bai Shihan belonged to Qin in the parallel world? Was that why her attitude towards Qin was like this? Looking at Bai Shihan's cold expression, Zhao Fu could not guess what she was thinking at all. Your Majesty, I want to leave. Don't worry, I promise that I won't become an enemy of Qin, Sun Hanxiang said resolutely as she bowed to Zhao Fu. Your Majesty, I want to leave as well. Your Majesty, please allow me to leave, Wei Qing said earnestly as he bowed. Your Majesty, I also want to leave. Of course, I won't become an enemy of Qin in the future, Su Liui said. Zhao Fu felt a headache coming on. He had finally obtained a few generals, and now they wanted to leave. Zhao Fu definitely would not let them leave, or with their abilities, they would definitely be able to do great things. If they served someone else, they would be a great threat to Qin, and letting them go would be akin to letting a tiger back into the mountain. Moreover, Qin had paid a great price to summon them, so how could he just let them go? Even though Zhao Fu did not want to make things difficult for them, he had no choice. Zhao Fu's expression became cold as he replied domineeringly, Do you really think that's possible? You must become my concubines. This is something that cannot be changed. Come and serve me in bed tonight. There's no need to say anything else. By now, Xianru had finished writing, and hearing Zhao Fu's words, she smiled in satisfaction and handed the 4 pieces of paper to Zhao Fu. Hearing Zhao Fu's words, Sun Hanxiang and the other 2 women's faces became pale, and they felt quite angry as they pointed at Zhao Fu and cursed, You muddle-headed ruler! Do you think we'll submit to you like this? You're looking down on us too much. Facing these people pointing at him and cursing at him, Zhao Fu felt quite angry, and he coldly glanced at them. However, he did not say anything, as they could not resist. As long as he officially made them concubines, they would not be able to do so even if they died. Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and took the 4 pieces of paper from Xianru. I'm willing to become your concubine. A cold voice suddenly sounded out, causing everyone else to look at her in surprise. Zhao Fu also looked at Bai Shihan in confusion. Facing everyone's gazes, Bai Shihan stood there like a block of ice, not responding at all. The scene suddenly fell silent, and it was Xianru who broke the silence, saying, Your Majesty! Hurry and make them concubines. Zhao Fu came to his senses and took out the imperial ruler's seal and pressed it against the 4 pieces of paper, causing them to shine with a bright golden light. Sun Hanxiang and the other 2 women's expressions fell. They had a bad feeling, but with their current strength, they were unable to resist, and they did not even have any sharp weapons. They were much smarter than ordinary women, and after thinking for a while, they decided to endure and wait for an opportunity. Zhao Fu did not say anything and waved his hand, causing 4 rays of golden light to enter the 4 women's bodies. Immediately, a large amount of golden phoenix chi flowed out of their bodies, and 4 smaller golden phoenixes flew towards the heaven prayer platform. Scree! A phoenix's cry sounded out, and it brought with it a terrifying might that dyed the entire sky golden. Clouds started to swirl, and Zhao Fu had never thought that their phoenix chi would cause the Emperor Phoenix to change. Chapter 557. Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile. For the golden dragon to be so shocked, it meant that the Emperor Phoenix statue was quite extraordinary. Qin was definitely collecting phoenix chi. Outside, there was a 10-meter-long golden phoenix that gave off a bright golden light as it flew in the sky. Its movements were incredibly elegant and its voice was incredibly pleasant to the ears. Countless birds were attracted by it and flew behind it, creating a scene of hundreds of birds paying homage to the phoenix. Traces of black aura rose up from the ground, and Zhao Fu could sense Qin's fate continuously being purified. The golden phoenix's light caused Zhao Fu's fate to change, and the golden dragon and black dragon within his body could sense this power and could not help but roar. Following this, the Emperor Phoenix returned to the heaven prayer platform and turned back into a crystal statue. Zhao Fu returned to his room and ordered people to take Sun Hanxiang and the other 3 women away and serve them well. Zhao Fu did not participate in the day's events as he took care of some other matters. In the blink of an eye, it was night time, and Zhao Fu had to participate in the night's events. After coming to his room, the 4 women were already there. They had all been forced to dress up and had changed into women's clothes, making them look even more alluring than before. Sun Hanxiang and the other 2 women's expressions were quite unsightly, and they stood in a corner, not willing to go near. However, Bai Shihan had already fallen asleep. Zhao Fu walked in and coldly looked at the 3 women as he said, "Go to bed yourselves and we'll still have a chance to negotiate. Otherwise, don't force me to use force." Hearing Zhao Fu's words, Sun Hanxiang and the other 2 women thought about how Zhao Fu wanted to forcefully take their bodies, and their faces paled. They slightly hesitated before tearing up and lying on the bed. They had never felt so wronged before, and if it was before, they would rather die than endure this humiliation. However, after being conferred titles by Zhao Fu and being controlled by the Emperor Phoenix statue, they could not even die. However, hearing that there was still a chance to negotiate, they decided to go to bed. This was better than being raped by Zhao Fu. With their strength, how could they resist Zhao Fu? In the end, they would definitely be raped by Zhao Fu. The 4 women all lay on the bed, and Zhao Fu took off his clothes and lay on the bed, not doing anything. They would rather die than submit, so Zhao Fu couldn't really force himself on them. Even if he forced himself on them, it would only be for a moment of pleasure. In the future, they would definitely think of ways to seek death, and with their personalities, it was obvious that they would do such a thing. Even if they did not die, their talents would be wasted. After all, they were commander-level figures, and it would be a great loss to Qin. Right now, Zhao Fu only wanted them to accept their current identities and slowly change them. He would not harm them. Zhao Fu lay on the rightmost side, and next to him was Bai Shihan. She still looked incredibly cold, lying there like a block of wood. She did not move or change at all, and even her breathing was steady. It was as if she was the only person lying on the bed, and no one else existed. If it wasn't for the fact that Zhao Fu could clearly feel her body temperature, he would have thought that there was a corpse lying next to him. After Zhao Fu lay down and covered himself with the blanket, he did not move at all. Sun Hanxiang and the other 2 women let out sighs of relief, and Bai Shihan opened her eyes and looked at Zhao Fu. Sensing her gaze, Zhao Fu turned his head, and their gazes met. Bai Shihan did not say anything and continued to coldly look at Zhao Fu. Seeing this, Zhao Fu felt a bit nervous, and he asked the question he had been wondering during the day, "Why are you willing to be my concubine?" Bai Shihan replied expressionlessly, "This is also Qin, and you are Qin's highness. Besides, I admire domineering men. If my body is useful to Qin or his highness, I'm willing to contribute my body." Hearing her words, Zhao Fu could not help but feel a bit of respect for this woman who was willing to sacrifice everything for Qin. However, her loyalty was only 60. If she was willing to sacrifice everything for Qin, she would definitely be loyal to him. Zhao Fu thought for a while and realized that her heart was still with Qin in the parallel world, and she was still loyal to that Qin. As for Zhao Fu, although she was willing to sacrifice everything for Qin, her heart was not with him. Zhao Fu nodded and said, "Go to bed early." It was already past 8 a.m., and the New Year Dreamland had opened. Zhao Fu could not waste any more time. As for sleeping with them, he did not have to worry about them assassinating him. After all, their movements were restricted by fate, and adding on the golden dragon within Zhao Fu's body, even though Zhao Fu had entered the New Year Dreamland, they would not succeed. After entering the New Year Dreamland, Zhao Fu once again turned into a little Nian, and he started to struggle again. He continuously killed Nians, and the higher his level became, the more New Year points he obtained. System announcement. The New Year Dreamland is about to close. The top 1,000 people will be able to obtain various rewards. Soon, it was time for the New Year Dreamland to close. Zhao Fu's gains this time were much better than last time, and he wondered what rank he would obtain. Rank 1. Tina Pendragon, 210,000 New Year points. Rank 2. Caesar Augustus, 190,000 New Year points. Rank 3. Minamoto Ren, 170,000 New Year points. Rank 4. CG, 160,000 New Year points. The person in first place was Tina Pendragon, and because of what had happened last time, no one was too surprised. The person in second place was the Roman Empire's legatee, Caesar Augustus, which shocked everyone. What no one expected was that the person in third place was called Minamoto Ren. He was from Japan, and he was the next emperor. Japan's emperor had always been a family, and even though there were different factions in power, the position of the emperor had never changed. It had always been a constitutional monarchy. Minamoto Ren had actually obtained third place, and he was a dark horse. This surprised countless people. After all, Japan's territory was not very big, and its fate was not very strong. In the previous events, it had always been the various dynasty legatees. The fact that Japan was ranked third caused the entire Japanese nation to celebrate. It was indeed a great event that inspired the people of Japan. What surprised countless people was that not a single Chinese person had entered the top 3, and Great Xia's legatee was only ranked 4th. Countless Chinese people's expressions darkened, and they felt quite disappointed. However, they still did not see Qin's legatee's name, and their moods became much better. It was not just the Chinese factions. The factions from all over the world were also quite happy. Even though Zhao Fu's gains were more than last time, he was only ranked 31st. Chapter 558. Now that all of China's people had lost, and without Qin's legatee's threat, many people who hated China jumped out and continuously insulted them. The Chinese people are all trash. Victory will still belong to us. The next time we invade China, we'll take all of their women and have them serve us as slaves. You Chinese people are so weak. Weren't you so powerful before? You've lost so much face. Our race is the most outstanding existence in the world. Lowly Chinese people are like livestock and should all be killed. They're not even fit to carry our shoes for us. Ha ha, Chinese people are all dogs. Bite me if you're not convinced. Facing these insults and provocations, the Chinese people could not take it anymore and angrily retorted. A war of insults unfolded, and it was incredibly intense. However, many people urged the Chinese people to be rational and not argue with them. They told them to treat them with respect and make them believe that the Chinese people were friendly and willing to help them. Zhao Fu did not know about these things, and after waking up from the New Year dreamland, Zhao Fu looked at the 4 women sleeping soundly before getting up and starting to collect New Year points. This time, he had obtained 2 billion New Year points, and Zhao Fu went to the exchange stone stele to see if there were any good things. After exchanging for the 10 general medallions, Zhao Fu looked at general fates. General fates were much cheaper than general medallions. After all, a general-level general fate was only worth 300 million or so New Year points. However, each faction could only exchange for 1 general-level general fate. Other general fates that were not general-level general fates, which were lower-grade general fates, also had purchase restrictions. Zhao Fu spent 300 million or so New Year points to exchange for a general fate, but he did not find anything good. Apart from general fate, Zhao Fu did not care about the other general fates, so he could only look at the exchange stone stele to see if there were any good things he could exchange for. Otherwise, with so many New Year points, he would not be able to spend them. On the other side, Sun Hanxiang and the other 3 women woke up, and seeing that Zhao Fu had long since left, they felt quite confused. The night had been quite peaceful, and following this, female attendants came in and prepared some toiletries and breakfast before taking them to their rooms. At this time, they also saw the other women who had been made concubines. Seeing so many beautiful women, Sun Hanxiang and the other 2 cursed inwardly, "What a licentious and incapable ruler!" However, after chatting with them for a while, Sun Hanxiang and the others were a little stunned. It seemed that they had misunderstood Zhao Fu. Then, under the protection of the female soldiers, they left the castellan's mansion and went outside. They looked at the prosperity of Qin city, as well as the praises of many people for their highness. Sun Hanxiang and the others fell silent. It was unknown what they were thinking. Bai Shihan's expression remained unchanged as she followed beside them. After looking at the exchange stone stele for a while, Zhao Fu did not find anything good, so he called Xiao Jian over and gave him a violet orb of aura. This was the general fate. Because Zhao Fu could only exchange for one general fate, Xiao Jian's performance was the best out of all the generals. Even though he was a bit extreme, he was able to resolve problems quickly, so Zhao Fu decided to give it to him. If he could exchange for a second general fate, Zhang Dahu would be the best choice, as he was quite reliable. Xiao Jian expressed his gratitude to Zhao Fu before returning to his courtyard and starting to fuse with the general fate. Zhao Fu then took care of some matters, and it was night again. Zhao Fu felt quite tired as he returned to his room. He was quite surprised to find that Sun Hanxiang and the other 3 women were there. Zhao Fu had not asked them to serve him today, and he had only wanted to dampen their spirits. However, today the 4 of them had already gone to bed. They had mistakenly thought that Zhao Fu wanted them to serve him, and they wanted to confirm their suspicions. As such, they had been very cooperative that night. Not only had they gone to bed early, but they had also taken off their clothes and only wore thin undergarments, revealing their beautiful bodies. What's going on? Zhao Fu could not understand what was going on. He looked at their loyalty and found that Sun Hanxiang, Wei Qing, and Su Liui's loyalty had increased from negative to 20 points. Even though their loyalty was not very high, Zhao Fu was pleasantly surprised. As time went on and they got to know Qin better, their loyalty would gradually increase, and Zhao Fu believed that they would continue to serve Qin. There was also Bai Shihan, her loyalty had reached 70, which was 10 points higher than before. Something must have happened today, or else their loyalty would not have changed so quickly. Following this, Zhao Fu entered the New Year Dreamland, and after working hard, his gains were the same as the day before. System announcement. The New Year Dreamland is about to close, and the Dreamland rankings will be announced. The top 1,000 people will receive various rewards. Following this, a system announcement sounded out as a massive stone stele appeared in the sky, and names started to appear on it. Number 1. Tina Pendragon, 220,000 New Year points. Number 2. Caesar Augustus, 200,000 New Year points. Number 3. Akhenaten, 210,000 New Year points. Number 4. Minamoto Rin, 190,000 New Year points. There were no changes to the top 2 rankings. The new 3rd-ranked person was Akhenaten, the Pharaoh Kingdom's legatee. The 3rd-ranked person was Minamoto Rin, the 5th-ranked person was Tsar Russia's legatee, and the 6th-ranked person was Great Zhou's Ji Shinming. This time, the world's factions could not help but cheer. They had managed to push China, which had firmly occupied the top spot, into the top 5. This was something to be excited about. Countless Chinese people's expressions became dim, and their morale plummeted. Those who hated China became even more arrogant, and they cursed even more viciously. For example, they wanted all Chinese men to become slaves and animals, and for women, they wanted them to have sex with them. Zhao Fu's ranking was slightly higher, but he started to pay attention to it. He was worried that there would be a shift in fate. For example, in ancient times, most of the world's fate had been in the east, and everything else had fallen behind. However, after the shift in fate, most of the world's fate had been in the west, and the east's fate had started to decline. This was what Zhao Fu was worried about. Even though China occupied the Midland continent and had a great advantage, if its fate weakened, it would not be able to stop other countries from invading. If that was really the case, Zhao Fu had to hurry up and restore his nation. Not too long after Zhao Fu's consciousness returned to his body, a hurried knock sounded out, and a soldier's voice sounded out, "Your Majesty, there's trouble. I have urgent news to report." Chapter 559. The knocking woke the four women up, and they looked at each other, feeling that something big was about to happen. They were quite curious about what was going on, and they didn't notice that they started to care about Qin. Their opinions of Zhao Fu also started to change, and their loyalty towards him once again increased. Zhao Fu walked out of the room and looked at the soldier in front of him as he asked, "What's going on?" The soldier immediately replied respectfully, "Your Majesty, the four-player armies have set out today to attack the Forest of Horrors. The four-player armies will set out today to attack the Forest of Horrors, and the generals have already rushed to the conference hall. Your Majesty, please head there immediately." Zhao Fu's expression was quite serious. He had never thought that they would attack Qin at such a time. It was still the New Year event, and today was only the fourth day. There were still 3 more days before it ended. Why would they suddenly attack Great Qin despite the snow blocking the roads and the stat debuffs? Zhao Fu felt quite confused as he went to the meeting hall. When everyone saw Zhao Fu arrive, they all bowed to him. Zhao Fu nodded and sat down before looking at Bai Qi and asking, "What's going on? Tell me what happened in detail." Bai Qi immediately replied, "Your Majesty, it's like this. We don't know what's going on either, but not long after the New Year Dreamland ended, they received orders to attack Qin and that they would pay for any losses incurred during the event. They started to move, and our spies quickly reported back. They've already passed through the Void Zone and entered the Forest of Horrors. Fortunately, we were already on guard and set up a large number of isolation formations, making it impossible to use the teleportation formation, so they can only walk. Because of the snow blocking the road, their marching speed will be slow, otherwise they might have attacked by now." Zhao Fu nodded and returned to the real world. Zhao Fu was unable to obtain detailed information in the Heaven Awakened world, so he returned to the real world to investigate and understand what had happened recently. By now, the Chinese factions and foreign factions were not getting along very well, and there were some conflicts. Logically speaking, if they didn't get along well with each other, it had nothing to do with Qin. However, they didn't think so. They thought that Qin was their common enemy. Therefore, they had to severely injure Qin first before they could be at ease to fight among themselves. Otherwise, with the threat of Qin, they wouldn't be at ease. Another reason was that Qin hadn't entered the top 10 for 3 days in a row. Many factions thought that something big had happened to Qin. Adding on the fact that it was still the event time, they thought that Qin definitely wouldn't expect them to launch an attack at this time. Qin didn't expect that they would attack during the event. Fortunately, Zhao Fu didn't relax. He paid close attention to their movements and made all kinds of preparations. Otherwise, this time, he might really be tricked by them. After understanding what had happened, Zhao Fu re-entered the Heaven Awakened world and looked through all of the information regarding the enemy's attack. This time, there were 4-player armies, each with 3 million players. They attacked Qin from the north, south, east, and west. Because last time, during the battle to unify the Forest of Horrors, Qin's general location had been leaked, and they knew where Qin was. As such, they didn't attack aimlessly and directly, giving off ferocious auras. Moreover, they had made all sorts of preparations, so even if Qin was setting up traps, they had all sorts of ways to deal with them. The 4-player armies had 12 million players, and they had all made preparations. Qin was at a great disadvantage, as he only had 4 million people and 800,000 soldiers. It would be very difficult for him to defend against 12 million players. Luckily, none of the system main cities had joined in, or else it would have been very difficult for Qin to defend against the 4 system main cities. Apart from this disadvantage, Qin also had some advantages. For example, they were attacking while Qin was defending, so they had an advantage. Moreover, the weather was cold and the snow blocked the roads, making it difficult for them to advance. The second advantage was the destroyer's debuff, which reduced stats by 30% and made it easier for one's body to fall ill. This was a great advantage for Qin. As for how to deal with the player army's attack, Zhao Fu had long since discussed this with everyone, so they had made preparations. Qin's assassins were quite suited for this sort of complicated terrain, and they could sometimes have unexpected effects. As such, Zhao Fu had increased Qin's assassins to 50,000, and he had increased them by 20,000. These ordinary people had caused great trouble for Qin every time, and they had seriously threatened Qin. This was not just once or twice but countless times. They relied on their undying abilities to do as they pleased, and in the face of massive benefits, they had stood against Qin time and time again. Zhao Fu had had enough of them, so he had to take special measures. Zhao Fu's eyes flashed with a cold light as he gave this order to the 50,000 Qin's assassins. They quickly left and started to carry out Zhao Fu's orders. Because Sun Hanxiang and the other 3 women were all great generals, Zhao Fu did not restrict their movements, and because they were curious, they had also joined in. However, after hearing Zhao Fu give the order to Qin's assassins, even with their experiences, they could not help but feel a chill in their hearts. They once again got to know Zhao Fu, and he was far more terrifying than they had imagined. They realized that Zhao Fu had been incredibly lenient and merciful towards them. If Zhao Fu treated them like this, they did not even dare to imagine what would happen to them. The 4 armies slowly advanced towards Qin's territory. Because of the thick snow, when they stepped on it, half of their bodies would sink in, making it incredibly difficult to walk. However, in order to quickly attack Qin's territory, they had made preparations. This was a type of ice crystal that could turn soft snow into thick ice. People could walk on it, and it was like they were paving a road, creating an ice road on top of countless layers of snow. This method was much faster than the first method, but given how large this region was, if they walked, they would not be able to reach Qin's territory within 8 or 9 days. As such, their speed was still relatively slow. Many people were quite dissatisfied with this sudden attack on Qin's territory. It was such a cold day, and they had come out to fight. If it wasn't for the fact that they had money, no one would have been willing to come out. Moreover, this was during the event period, so they could participate and receive many rewards. However, since they were given a lot of money, they did not complain too much. Moreover, the event during the day was not that important, so it was not a problem for them to give it up. However, they could still enter the New Year dreamland at night. Chapter 560. After walking for a day, they found a flat area and looked quite tired. They started to set up camp and did not sense any danger, so they sent some people to keep watch while everyone else went to their tents and slept. Of course, they could also enter the New Year dreamland and participate in activities. That way they would not be delayed and they could only sleep. AI. It's so cold today and they want us to keep watch? A young man complained as he stood next to a campfire. A chubby young man also said unhappily, "That's right. Why do we have to keep watch? Why don't they do it?" The middle-aged man looked at the 2 of them and said, "Let's ask the manager tomorrow. He'll most likely give us more rewards. Also, I'll close my eyes and go into the New Year dreamland. Just by going in, we'll receive 100 New Year points, which we can use to exchange for some things. We can't waste them." Hearing the middle-aged man's words, the 2 young men smiled. There was no need to be so calculative when there was money to be made, so they did not feel as displeased as before. They told the middle-aged man to quickly go into the New Year dreamland, and they would also go in and receive 100 New Year points. The middle-aged man was not too worried, as there were many people keeping watch, so there should not be any danger. As such, he leaned against the side and closed his eyes as he entered the New Year dreamland. Just as the two young men were about to chat, a cold light flashed, and blood spurted out as the two of them fell to the ground, dead. A few people wearing black hoods appeared where they had been, and one of them looked at the middle-aged man leaning against the side. He gestured to the people next to him, and one of them went up and knocked the middle-aged man unconscious. It was not that Qin's assassins did not want to kill them, but after entering the New Year dreamland and receiving a fatal attack, they would receive a system announcement and be forced to wake up. As such, they could not directly kill them. Otherwise, with their lax defense, Qin's assassins would be able to kill many people in a single night. However, Qin's assassins' goal this time was not to kill. The 50,000 Qin's assassins were split into 4 teams to deal with the 4-player armies. Because of the New Year dreamland, Qin's assassins did not start a massacre and instead secretly transported people out. In other words, after knocking people unconscious, they would carry them out of the camp. Over the course of the night, Qin's assassins came 5 times and transported 50,000 people out of the camp. After these people were transported out of the camp, they were all tied up. Because they were quite far away, they didn't have to worry about being discovered no matter how much they shouted. Buckets of cold water were poured over them, and the bone-chilling cold woke them up. Looking at the hooded figures around them, they instinctively felt a sense of danger and started to cry out. "Who are you? Let me go. Sir, I'm just here to join in on the fun. Don't kill me. Please don't kill me. I'm just a child." Qin's assassins all looked at them coldly without making any response. Each of them took out a sharp knife and started to execute Zhao Fu's order. After a night, the warm sun rose from the horizon. Everyone slowly woke up. On the warm bed, they couldn't help but let out a comfortable moan, and then left their tents. A shriek rang out, startling countless people. They rushed out of their tents to take a look, only to discover that many night watchmen had been killed. The enemy actually came last night, but they didn't notice at all. The expression of the commander in charge of this operation changed, and he hurriedly said, "Hurry! Check the losses." A few people immediately obeyed and left, and they came back to report, "Sir, we lost around 50,000 people. We lost around 50,000 people, and apart from a few night watchmen, there were no other casualties." "Only 50,000 people are missing?" The commander let out a sigh of relief. Luckily, compared to their 3 million people, the losses weren't too great. "It seems that Qin has discovered their movement. We can't be careless," the commander thought before giving the order. As for the 50,000 people who had disappeared, the commander didn't even need to think about it. They were definitely killed by Qin. 50,000 people had died, but they didn't really die, so the others didn't care too much. However, after hearing that it was Qin who had launched a sneak attack last night, they were quite afraid, so they became incredibly cautious. Seeing that everyone had packed up, the commander gave the order to set off and meet up with the other teams as soon as possible. With 12 million soldiers, Qin didn't know how to deal with them, and he didn't believe that they would lose again. After all, last time, Qin had been forced back by millions of players, which meant that Qin didn't have any terrifying trump cards up his sleeves. As such, the commander was quite confident this time. If these 12 million people attacked Qin at the same time, it was highly likely that they would be able to kill Qin. At worst, he would be heavily injured, and after returning, he would be viewed as a hero and rewarded by his faction. Thinking about this, a trace of a smile appeared on the commander's face. Terrified cries sounded out from the team at the front. The commander was given a big fright and hurriedly led his people forwards. Countless people were so scared that they collapsed to the ground. Their bodies continuously trembled, and their faces were pale and filled with terror. Some people even continuously vomited. The commander felt quite strange, but when he looked up, he felt a bone-piercing chill, causing his hands and feet to feel cold. He looked incredibly shocked because the scene in front of him was a bloody purgatory. There were corpses in front of him. Some were hung on trees, some were nailed to trees, and some were lying on the ground. However, the countless corpses had died in different ways, and the methods used were extremely cruel. Some people had been skinned alive and hung on trees, allowing the cold wind to blow against them. Their corpses were covered in a layer of frost, and very few people still had their last breaths, weakly moaning. Some people had been tied to trees, but their stomachs had been cut open, and the gash extended from their throats to their lower bodies, causing their internal organs to flow out. Some people had their hands and feet taken away, their eyes dug out, and their tongues cut out. Ropes had been tied around their waists and hung on trees, and they were still screaming in pain. There were also some young people who had been pierced through from their mouths to their anuses by spears. They were like skewered meat skewers, and they were stuck on the ground. Some women's breasts had been cut off, and their eyes had been dug out. Their lower bodies had been pierced by wooden spikes, and blood flowed down their legs. They were also hung on trees. Chapter 561. All of the corpses' faces were twisted in pain. They hadn't died from fatal injuries, but they had suffered endless pain before slowly dying. There were countless corpses like this in front of them, forming this terrifying scene. Almost all of the 50,000 people who had disappeared had died like this. Is this something a human can do? He's simply a beast and too cruel. He doesn't have any humanity at all. Countless people looked at this scene in shock, and their hearts were filled with coldness. Their bodies couldn't help but tremble. Qin's cruel methods caused them to freeze on the spot, not daring to take a step forward. They wouldn't truly die, but Zhao Fu wanted them to suffer endless pain. Zhao Fu didn't want to do this, but they had challenged Zhao Fu's bottom line time and time again, posing a great threat to Qin. Zhao Fu's patience with them had reached its limit, so he didn't hesitate to use this method. He used extremely cruel methods to force back the attacking player army. Many people in the player army saw this scene and were so scared that they didn't want to continue. If they were caught by Qin and ended up like this, they wouldn't want to suffer such pain. As such, many people said that they wanted to leave and go back. If they were caught by Qin, it would be terrible. Seeing this, the commander first comforted everyone before immediately returning to the real world to report this matter to his superiors. This matter also spread to the real world, causing countless people to suck in a breath of cold air. This method was extremely cruel, and as a civilized society, seeing such a tragic scene, they all stood on the side of the victims, criticizing and insulting Qin's cruel actions. They had thought that Qin was evil, and their attacks were just. As such, almost everyone stood on the side of the victims and looked righteous. Countless factions felt quite disappointed. Qin had started to use such extreme methods. Before, Qin had thought that he had been too lenient, but now everyone realized how cruel Qin was. As such, they had to be careful when going against Qin, because this would be their end as well. Countless people accused Qin's cruel behavior, which made Qin's reputation fall to the lowest point. The 100 schools of philosophers and the sects looked at Qin, who was on the verge of going crazy, and sighed. They were unable to stop either side. However, the various dynasty factions all felt that something must have happened to Qin, or else he would not have used such a cruel method to threaten others. As such, they decided to attack Qin. After receiving this reply, the commander returned to the real world and said, "Double the rewards and buy a suicide pill. If you're caught by them, you'll be able to immediately commit suicide and won't have to endure such pain." The suicide pill was a very special pill. It could be consumed first, and as long as it was stimulated, the pill would produce a deadly poison that could take one's life. When everyone heard that the rewards had been doubled and that there was a suicide pill, they were incredibly tempted. In the end, they decided to stay and continue onward. Zhao Fu had also heard of this news. Originally, he had thought that he would be able to scare off a group of players with his terrifying method. However, he had still underestimated these players. Now, he could only use that item to destroy one player army before thinking about how to deal with the other 3 armies. Zhao Fu gathered his forces and set out. The commander of the Eastern Army was called Lu Hongjiang, and he was from the school of the military. He was the strongest of the 4-player armies. Last night, Qin's assassins had almost failed to kill him. However, because there were so many players, Qin's assassins had managed to snatch away some players. Zhao Fu's goal was this army. If he could get rid of the strongest players in this army, their morale would take a heavy blow. That way, Qin's chances of victory would be much higher. On the eastern side, a mighty-looking middle-aged man led the player army slowly onwards. This middle-aged man was naturally Lu Hongjiang. Lu Hongjiang was quite famous in the school of the military, or else he wouldn't have been appointed as the commander. Lu Hongjiang was incredibly confident in this battle, and he believed that it wouldn't be a problem to heavily injure Qin. Everyone else tried to curry favor with Lu Hongjiang and flattered him, saying that Qin was trash. However, Lu Hongjiang simply smiled and didn't believe their nonsense. He knew how terrifying Qin was, so he didn't dare to be careless at all. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as 10 black pillars of light shot into the sky. A massive black magic formation appeared, giving off a large amount of black light and an eerie, deathly intent. Rumble! It was as if a flash flood had erupted, and the deathly aura flooded towards Lu Hongjiang. Lu Hongjiang was given a big fright and understood that Qin was attacking. However, Lu Hongjiang quickly calmed down and called over a trusted aide and said a few words in his ear. After hearing Lu Hongjiang's words, the aide immediately turned and disappeared. "Get ready!" Lu Hongjiang yelled, and all of the players started to move. The shield-bearers rushed to the front, forming a shield wall, the archers drew their bows, and the infantrymen also prepared. Lu Hongjiang had already drilled them, so they were able to carry out his orders in an orderly manner. Rumble! The massive sounds came closer and closer, and Lu Hongjiang's pupils constricted. He could clearly see what it was actually skeletons. There were human skeletons and beast skeletons, and there were roughly 2 million of them. All of the skeletons gave off a black aura, and it looked like a black wave rushing over. The aura they gave off was incredibly ferocious, especially the deathly aura that rushed over, causing everyone to feel a chill in their hearts. Lu Hongjiang had long since heard about Qin, and he knew that Qin had the ability to cast undead disaster. However, it seemed that he didn't have this ability anymore, or else he wouldn't have been chased by 3 million players last time. This was quite shameful. However, Lu Hongjiang hadn't expected that Qin still had the ability to cast undead disaster, and that there were so many of them. These skeletons were the people that Qin had killed when he was conquering villages, as well as the livestock and beasts that he had raised. Before, Zhao Fu had ordered the soldiers to collect these corpses, as they would be very useful in the future. Originally, Zhao Fu had wanted to use the undead disaster's power to break through a defensive wall and break the encirclement that they had placed on Qin. At that time, he hadn't expected that they would suddenly attack Qin. However, these undead had come in handy, and with their help, Qin would be able to easily defeat this player army. Swish, swish, swish. Chapter 562. The countless arrows coming from both sides caught the players completely by surprise. They had been preparing to face the incoming skeleton army, and they had not expected there to be people lying in ambush on both sides. Chi, 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 countless arrows descended like rain, sinking into people's bodies, causing blood to spurt everywhere. Many people were instantly killed by the arrows. The stench of blood caused the skeleton army to charge forwards even more madly, and their auras became even more ferocious. However, at that moment, 12 figures appeared in the sky, all of them giving off massive auras. The terrifying might they gave off felt as if a massive boulder was weighing down on the players' chests, making it difficult for them to even breathe. Boom! Bai Qi raised the Seven Murders sword and sent all of his power into it, causing it to give off a terrifying blood-red light that dyed the sky blood-red. Sword Qi swept out, and the cold and murderous aura made people feel incredibly terrified. Following this, Bai Qi slashed down, sending out a massive blood-red sword light towards the massive shield wall. The other generals also exploded out with terrifying power and sent their power into their weapons as they started to attack the shield wall. Terrifying sword lights and saber lights tore through the shield wall like bolts of lightning. The terrifying attacks not only killed the shield-bearers but also the infantrymen behind them. In just an instant, the sword lights and saber lights flashed past, causing blood to spurt everywhere and limbs to fly everywhere. The ground was dyed red. Even though the player army had many people, they did not have any high-end battle power, which was a big disadvantage. Lu Hongjiang could only order the countless archers to shoot at the 12 people in the sky. The massive wave of arrows forced Bai Qi and the others to retreat and temporarily defend. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as the undead army gave off a ferocious aura and slammed into the shield wall. The massive shield wall had already been destroyed by the city lords, and it was unable to stop the undead army at all. The shield wall was instantly destroyed, and the countless skeletons gave off eerie and terrifying sounds as they madly attacked the players. The beast skeletons leapt at the players and bit them, while the humanoid skeletons continuously slashed at the players with weapons, and those without weapons used their hands to pierce through the players' chests. The player army also fought back with all their might. Their attacks either sent the skeletons flying or smashed them into a pile of bones. Swish, 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 a large number of arrows once again shot out from the left and right, raining down on the chaotic battlefield. Countless players were instantly killed by the arrows. Qin's soldiers continued to attack from afar. One reason was to preserve their strength and not fight head-on, and the other was that, if they got too close, they would be attacked by the skeleton army. Qin did not have full control of these countless skeletons, and they could injure at any moment. The archers wanted to shoot back at Qin, but because they were too far away and there were obstacles, they were unable to hit Qin arrows. On the other hand, Great Qin's side had high cultivations and good equipment, and the arrows they shot out could pierce 2 or 3 players' bodies. It could be said that they were on a completely different level. With the countless archers, the archers and archers, the players and the players, they and Qin and they skeleton and... After seeing Qin's strength, Lu Hongjiang felt incredibly shocked. No wonder so many people had fallen at his hands. The chaotic scene allowed Qin's city lords to once again seize this opportunity to attack the player army. Sword lights that were hundreds of meters long slashed out. Because there were so many players and they were crammed together, there were some who were weaker. This sort of attack would often kill thousands of people, and the players' bodies would be shredded by the sword lights, causing the stench of blood to become incredibly dense. The players' side was being completely suppressed. They faced the skeleton army's attacks from the front and were attacked by arrows from the left and right, while the 12 city lords launched ferocious attacks from above. The battle was completely one-sided, and the player army continuously retreated while the skeleton army continuously advanced, causing more and more players to die. Many people started to feel afraid, and when they saw that they could not win, they started to run. Their battle intent was not very strong, and they had already been intimidated by Qin's soldiers. Facing such ferocious attacks, they did not dare to continue resisting. Seeing this, Lu Hongjiang's heart sank and he yelled, "Don't be afraid of death. Block them for me." Even if you die, those who make contributions will receive 10 times the reward. Don't worry, the dynasty legatees and factions won't mistreat you. 10 times the rewards? This caused the countless players who wanted to run to stay. After all, the rewards were simply too tempting, and it was worth it for them to fearlessly stay. After all, they would not truly die, and all they needed was money. At that moment, another figure appeared in the sky, giving off an incredibly terrifying might that seemed to cause the surrounding air to freeze. Lu Hongjiang was given a big fright, and he looked at the cloaked figure in the sky. He was Qin's legatee? Indeed, he was an incredibly terrifying existence. Zhao Fu looked at Lu Hongjiang and understood that he was the commander-in-chief. As such, he took out a bow and knocked an arrow before drawing the bow to its fullest. Swish! An arrow shot out, turning into a cold light that instantly tore through the air and pierced through Lu Hongjiang's chest. Lu Hongjiang only had stage 1 cultivation, so he did not have the ability to block Zhao Fu's attack. However, Lu Hongjiang, who had fallen to the ground, had a trace of a smile on his face. No one could understand why he had such a smile before he died. Zhao Fu did not notice this strange smile, and he instead focused on the battlefield. Without a commander, the player army was completely defeated, and they all started to flee while the undead army madly chased after them. In the end, countless players had escaped, and Great Qin had won this battle. However, from the original 2 million skeletons, there were only 1 million or so skeletons left. The ground was covered with player corpses, and Zhao Fu ordered his people to quickly clean up the battlefield before returning to Qin's legatee. This time, with the undead army, the battle was much easier, and Zhao Fu smiled in satisfaction. Suddenly, Zhao Fu felt that something was off, as if a wave of danger was approaching. As such, he rushed into the sky to take a look, and he was shocked to find that he had fallen for a trap. 3 million player armies ferociously rushed over from the other 3 directions, giving off terrifying auras. What made Zhao Fu's expression even more unsightly was that there was a team of 1.2 million players in the east, and they were all stage 1 soldiers. There were also 12 city lords in the sky flying over. Chapter 563. Your Majesty, what should we do? Qin's city lords sensed that something was off and flew into the sky. Seeing the scene in front of them, their expressions fell. Zhao Fu had never thought that they would have long since found a way to break through the isolation barrier. Splitting into 4 groups was just a ruse. Once Qin attacked one of the groups, the other 3 groups would immediately attack. Only a few people knew about this, or else the spies hidden among the players would know. What should we do? Zhao Fu became incredibly calm and did not feel as anxious as before. After thinking for a while, he said, "The other players are too weak, so Zhao Fu will have a way to deal with them. However, what about the 1.2 million stage 1 soldiers? Qin's army only had 800,000 soldiers, and there were 600,000 or so stage 1 soldiers and 200,000 stage 0 to 8 or 0 to 9 soldiers. However, facing 1.2 million stage 1 soldiers was simply too difficult. However, it wasn't like they didn't have any advantages. Firstly, as the attackers, they were affected by the activity, and all of their stats were reduced by 30%. Moreover, they only had full sets of blue-grade equipment, while Qin's soldiers all had at least 1 piece of silver-grade equipment. Moreover, with Qin's 5 general armaments and Qin City's bonus stats, they were far superior to the system main city soldiers. Since they couldn't escape, they could only fight. If they didn't succeed, they would die trying. I'll deal with the 3-player armies. You all focus on dealing with the system main city army. Zhao Fu said seriously after making up his mind. The generals obeyed, and 800,000 Qin's soldiers gathered together, giving off an austere and murderous aura like a flood that was about to explode. Ha ha! Qin won't be able to escape this time. Brothers, charge and destroy Qin City. Trash Qin City. We're going to act on behalf of the heavens and kill him. Kill. Kill all of Qin City soldiers. If he dares to be so arrogant, your elder will trample him to death. Countless players excitedly charged over. With their 9 million players and 120 King System main city soldiers, they were 100% certain that they would be able to destroy Qin City. 800,000 Qin soldiers aimed at the system soldiers charging from the east, while Zhao Fu stood alone in front of the 3 armies of players. Countless players flooded into the Forest of Horrors, giving off an aura that shook the heavens and struck fear into the hearts of all creatures. The atmosphere within the Forest of Horrors became incredibly heavy, and the other wild beasts scattered in fear. Zhao Fu stood in the air and looked at the incoming crowd coldly. The sky-desolating Azure Dragon would only intervene when Qin City was about to die. Even if all the generals of the 800,000-strong army were killed, the sky-desolating Azure Dragon would not intervene. Because of the Heaven Killer bloodline, the Golden Dragon had used up all of its power. Otherwise, it would have been able to deal with these players. Unfortunately, it couldn't now. If the sky-desolate Azure Dragon and the Golden Dragon can't do it, what else can Zhao Fu do? Right now, Zhao Fu's only option was to use Qin City's Kingdom Fate. Even though Fate was incredibly important to Qin City, if all 800,000 of his soldiers died here, the player army would be able to ravage Qin City. The sky-desolate Azure Dragon could guarantee that Qin City would not be destroyed, but that was all. The player army could destroy everything outside of Qin City, but that would cause Qin City to lose everything. As such, Zhao Fu definitely didn't want that to happen. As such, Zhao Fu decided to use the Kingdom Fate. Qin City's fate was not as small as it had been before, and ever since the battle at Heavenstone City, Zhao Fu had been very careful with how he used fate. After developing for so long Great Qin's own fate, as well as the fate from conquering countless towns, destroying a few nation legatees, and conquering regions, was 100 or so times more fate than before. It could be described as an ocean. Now, Zhao Fu was about to use up all of his fate. The sky gradually darkened, and the wind started to blow as clouds started to gather. Everyone instinctively felt a wave of danger descend, and their hairs stood on end. It was as if a natural disaster was about to erupt. In the air, Zhao Fu's black cloak lightly fluttered as he stretched out his hand and pointed towards the sky as he roared, "Qin City's fate condense!" Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as a massive gale swept out, causing clouds to quickly gather as thunder sounded out in the sky. Traces of black aura continuously rose up from the ground of the Forest of Horrors and gathered towards Zhao Fu. As the traces of black aura gathered, they formed a black flood that flowed towards Zhao Fu and entered his body. Boom! A heaven-toppling might descended, seeming to be able to destroy the heavens and earth. This might seemed corporeal, causing the ground in the surrounding 10,000 meters to sink by 1 meter, and all of the trees and boulders within it were crushed into pieces. Cracks appeared in the sky, and the ground continuously trembled. A massive gale blew, and the light twisted. It was as if the heavens and earth could not withstand this power. In the air, Zhao Fu was completely covered by black flames, making it impossible to see his body. Only his 2 eyes, which gave off a brilliant blood-red light, were incredibly eye-catching within the black flames. The countless players felt the dangerous aura coming from the sky, and they felt as if their bodies had been submerged in icy water, causing them to uncontrollably tremble. Sensing this terrifying aura, the 12 city lords' expressions fell as they hurriedly said, "That person is using something terrifying. Hurry and stop him." The other city lords nodded and sped towards Zhao Fu, wanting to stop Zhao Fu. However, the 12 city lords blocked in front of them. Seeing so many city lords block in front of them, the city lords' expressions fell. The other side had so many city lords, If Qin attacked any one of the regions, it would be very difficult for that region to defend. With Qin's strength to such a degree, it seemed that working together to destroy Qin was the right decision. Demon Domain Door. A roar suddenly sounded out from Zhao Fu within the black flames. A black orb that was as big as a fist floated out of the black flames and shot into the sky. Boom! The sky seemed to be about to shatter as the black orb shot into the sky and expanded, forming a black hole that covered 10,000 kilometers. Massive amounts of demonic qi flooded out, and an evil and dark aura filled the entire region. Roar! Countless demons surged out like a tide, letting out twisted and evil laughter. There were all kinds of demons, not just imps, but also fallen demons, snake demons, goat demons, and so on. What was even more shocking was that these demons did not have bodies made of demonic qi but true bodies of flesh and blood. Demon Domain Door was the upgraded version of Hell's Gate, and it had even more terrifying power. Zhao Fu had used up all of Qin's fate to do this. Chapter 564. Boom! A muffled explosion sounded out as the ferocious demon tide slammed into the human tide, causing blood and limbs to fly everywhere. Pained cries sounded out as death quickly spread. The demon beasts were incredibly cruel. Some tore apart players' bodies, some bit off players' heads, some dug out players' hearts, and some slashed players in half with a swipe of their claws. The players started to desperately resist. Even though the demon beasts were terrifying, they couldn't just let them kill them. However, their attacks were quite weak. Now that the demon beasts had flesh and blood, they could think and dodge, unlike before, which only knew how to charge and kill. Moreover, their stats were far superior to the players, so unless they directly attacked their vitals, it would be quite difficult to kill them. The demon tide was only 1/3 of the size of the human tide, and even though the human tide was quite large, it was unable to defend against the demon tide's ferocity. As the demon tide pushed forward, the human tide continuously retreated. Pained cries continuously sounded out, and the ground was covered with blood and dismembered corpses. Qin's remaining 1 million or so skeletons, led by the 10 disaster cavalrymen, charged at the human tide from the side. The countless skeletons excitedly started to madly slaughter. Facing attacks from both sides, the human tide could only passively defend. They had wanted to first construct a shield wall to defend before killing the skeletons and demon beasts in an orderly manner. However, most of the demon beasts could fly, and before the player army could construct a shield wall, it was destroyed by the demon tide. On the other side, the 10 disaster cavalrymen gathered a large amount of deathly aura and instantly broke through the players' shield wall. The players were not united, and their battle intent was not as strong as the demon beasts and skeletons. They all retreated in fear, causing the skeletons and demon beasts to charge at the human tide even more ferociously and madly slaughter. Compared to these small fries, the system main city soldiers were the elites and were Qin's true opponents. Even though they were from different system main cities, they were united and filled with battle intent. The aura they gave off was incredibly terrifying. Qin's soldiers also had resolute gazes and gripped their weapons, looking death in the eye, and they also gave off incredibly sharp auras. Charge! The two armies gave off terrifying auras as they charged at the other side with unstoppable momentum. The sounds they gave off shook the surroundings. At that moment, Bai Qi, Wei Liao, Wang Jian, Meng Tian, and Sima Qiu took out their general armaments and roared as their general auras shot into the sky. 5 different colored stars gave off brilliant starlight as they descended into the world. Slaughterer, open. Attacker, open. Sly Dao, open. Full-scale army, activate. Formation-breaking army, activate. 5 shouts once again sounded out as the 5 general armaments gave off different lights. The 5 general stars in the sky sensed their power and gave off even more intense starlight, exploding out with shocking power. The Qin's soldiers below all gave off 5 different auras. Their eyes were blood-red, and their expressions were ferocious. Their hearts were filled with killing intent, and their bodies grew larger. 2 fangs grew out of their mouths, and they roared like wild beasts. The 800,000 Qin's soldiers had completely transformed into a wild beast that had lost control. With a terrifying and ferocious aura, they charged towards the system army with no regard for their lives. Kill! The system main city soldiers exploded out with all of their strength and roared as they gave off incredibly austere auras and ferociously rushed towards Qin's soldiers. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as the 2 tides ferociously clashed, causing the air to seem to explode. The 2 tides remained in a stalemate for a while, following which the 5-colored Qin's soldiers broke through the system main city army's tide of people. The 5 general armaments' 6 stats were all unleashed, and they were all added to the soldiers' bodies. The power they gave off was quite terrifying, and their power far surpassed that of the system main city soldiers. After breaking through the system main city army's tide of people, Qin's soldiers started to madly slaughter. They charged at the system main city soldiers, and their saber lights and sword lights flew everywhere, killing the system main city soldiers. Even though Qin's soldiers were incredibly ferocious, the system main city soldiers had a massive advantage in terms of numbers, and the system main city soldiers at the back valiantly charged forwards. Clang, 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 the sounds of countless weapons clashing could be heard as the 2 armies started to fight. The people in the sky also started to act. The system main city's 12 city lords and Qin's 12 city lords simultaneously exploded out with the terrifying power of their city lord seals. Immediately, the heavens and earth dimmed and the sun and moon dimmed. A terrifying aura swept through everything like a wild gale, causing sand and pebbles to fly and trees to snap. However, at that moment, a cold-looking young man suddenly slashed out with his sword. A sword light shot out like a bolt of lightning, piercing through the chest of a system main city's city lord. The system main city's city lord had never thought that the cold-looking young man would attack him, but it was too late. His heart had already been pierced by the sword, and a trace of blood leaked out of his mouth. The city lord's eyes closed as his body powerlessly fell to the ground. A black, wood-colored city lord seal floated out of the city lord's body, and the cold-looking young man held it in his hand. This sudden turn of events caused countless people from the system main city's side to feel incredibly shocked. They had never thought that the cold-looking young man would do such a thing. Logically speaking, their common enemy was Qin, so why would he kill his own people? Qin's side did not react at all, as if they had long since expected this. After all, this cold-looking young man was Gunia. After such a long time, Gunia had passed the old city lord's test and was now the young city lord of Battle City. At first, he did not know about this operation to destroy Qin, as the old city lord had participated in it. However, after finding out about this, he wanted to notify Qin, but it was already too late. As such, he begged the old city lord to let him lead the soldiers. Gunia, you traitor, you dared to kill your own people. Old Luo was wrong about you. Another middle-aged city lord furiously cursed at Gunia. Gunia did not reply. This sort of sneak attack was completely out of character, and it was completely incompatible with his way of the sword. However, at this critical moment, as long as it was beneficial to Qin, going against his principles was not a big deal. Xing. Gunia swung his sword, giving off a cold light as he attacked another city lord. He did not explain and continued to attack the system main city's city lord. The city lord could only defend, while the other system main city's city lords planned to attack Gunia and kill him first. However, how could Qin's city lord allow them to attack Gunia? He gave off a powerful aura and turned into a ray of light as he rushed towards the various city lords, and a shocking battle unfolded. At the same time, the 2 armies on the ground fought intensely, and the sound of countless weapons clashing could be heard. All sorts of cold lights shot everywhere, and blood flew everywhere as people fell. Chapter 565. On the other side, Zhao Fu coldly watched as the players continuously died and retreated, and he continued to order the demon tide and skeletons to madly attack. At this moment, Zhao Fu's face was quite pale because using the demon domain gate consumed too much of his fate. Even though it consumed all of his fate, Zhao Fu's body was starting to become unbearable, and he just wanted to quickly get rid of the player army. Otherwise, once he lost consciousness, these demons would return to the demon domain. Zhao Fu didn't have time to care about the battle on the other side, but he knew that it was going to be incredibly difficult. He had to get rid of this player army, or else Qin would have no hope of winning if they and the system army attacked from both sides. Countless demons and disaster cavalrymen obeyed Zhao Fu's orders and attacked the players even more ferociously than before. The ground was covered with corpses, and blood dyed everything red. The smell of blood was incredibly nauseating. Seeing how terrifying the demons were, the countless players no longer had the will to fight. At first, they slowly retreated before turning and running. Seeing that the countless players were about to flee, the commanders angrily yelled, "Those who run will not receive any rewards, but those who die will receive double the rewards." These words stopped the countless players who wanted to escape. After all, they had come for the rewards and had done so much. If they did not receive any rewards now, they would suffer a great loss. The countless players braced themselves and stayed behind, fighting back against the demons and skeletons. Hearing that there would be rewards for dying, the players were no longer as afraid and started to fight back. However, the demon tide was still incredibly ferocious, and it continuously battered the player army while the skeleton army madly attacked. The numbers on both sides continuously decreased, and deaths spread across the entire battlefield. The demons' cruelty and evil and the skeletons' instinctive hatred for life still held the upper hand. Even though their numbers continuously decreased, they didn't show any signs of retreating and focused on killing. The deaths of other demons and skeletons didn't affect them at all. However, the players were different. Even though they stayed behind, their battle strength greatly decreased due to their fear, and the skeletons gradually won. On the other side, the battle between Qin's soldiers and the system army was incredibly intense. It was completely different from the battle between the player army and the system army. This was a true battle. No matter which side it was, all of them had an intense will to fight. They did not fear death as they valiantly killed their enemies. At the same time, blood flew everywhere as people fell one after another, their lives gradually fading away. However, the system main army was still at a disadvantage. They had to face the Berserk Qin soldiers from the front, and there were still 100,000 Battle City soldiers attacking from behind. Just then, Battle City soldiers had launched a sneak attack, and many of them had died. Although the number of people fighting in the sky was less than 30, the intensity of the battle was not weaker than any other side. Boom, 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 massive explosions sounded out in the sky. The destructive power of the battle destroyed everything. The trees on the ground were easily obliterated. The pure destruction and the terrifying ripples made it so that no one dared to get close. In battle, Qin was slightly more advantageous. With Bai Qi and the other city lords' 5 general stars, they would be more powerful when fighting against the other city lords. There was also Gunia. His sword techniques were incredibly sharp, forcing a city lord to passively defend. He did not even have an opportunity to retaliate because if he was not careful, he could be injured or even killed by Gunia. A trace of blood leaked out of Zhao Fu's mouth. Zhao Fu felt as if his body was going to be torn apart, and his consciousness became hazy. However, the battle was not over yet, so Zhao Fu could only grit his teeth and continue to open the demon domain door. Time gradually passed, and Zhao Fu gritted his teeth as he persisted. Not only did blood flow out of his mouth, but blood also flowed out of his nose and eyes, and his consciousness became more and more hazy. By now, Zhao Fu was not in the mood to observe the battle. He bit down on his tongue, and the pain caused Zhao Fu to regain his composure. He then continued to persevere. But why were the consequences of opening the demon domain door so severe? The pain became more and more intense, and Zhao Fu felt that the pain surpassed the side effects of opening the demon domain door. Cough. Zhao Fu felt a sweetness in his throat, and he coughed up a mouthful of blood. The demonic flames around his body disappeared, and blood started to seep out of Zhao Fu's body. Right now, there was no time to think about anything else. Zhao Fu gritted his teeth and focused on maintaining the demon domain door. The pain became more and more intense, and he felt as if his flesh was being peeled off and his bones were being shattered. Zhao Fu could not care about anything else, and he could only sense that the battle around him was becoming more and more intense. The sounds of battle and killing could be heard in the surrounding 10 or so kilometers. Finally, Zhao Fu was unable to hold on any longer, and his consciousness collapsed. His vision darkened, and his body powerlessly fell from the sky. After an unknown amount of time, Zhao Fu slowly woke up and saw Xianru's face. Zhao Fu was lying on the ground, his head resting on Xianru's legs. How was the battle? Zhao Fu's voice was hoarse as he weakly asked Xianru. Xianru lightly laughed as she replied, "The battle is over. Qin won, and the generals are now cleaning up the battlefield. What about the losses?" Hearing Xianru's reply, Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief, and he worriedly asked about the casualties. Xianru looked at Zhao Fu, and the smile on her face faded as she replied, Qin has lost 240,000 people, and 5 generals have died. Cough. Hearing this number, Zhao Fu felt a pain in his heart, and he coughed up a mouthful of blood. Xianru hurriedly placed her hand on her chest, making Zhao Fu feel a bit better. She then comforted him, saying, "Your Majesty, our battle results were also quite shocking. We've killed 700,000 enemies, captured 100,000, and escaped 300,000. As for the city lords, Great Qin has killed 6 city lords and captured 1 alive. Bai Qi and the other generals are currently going to relocate the system main cities. As for the players, only a small number of players escaped, and most of them were killed by the demon tide. There are less than 100,000 skeletons left." Hearing Xianru's words, Zhao Fu felt a bit better. However, he suddenly saw many system announcements, and before he could check them, Zhao Fu felt quite surprised. System announcement: the heaven domain boundary has been affected, and the second level has been closed prematurely. System announcement: the second stage of the chaotic world has been unlocked. Killing people from different countries will result in different war points. System announcement: Qin's fate has been exhausted, and a major historical event has occurred. The New Year festival has ended prematurely. System announcement: conquering Chinese territory will result in double the fate, and killing Chinese people will result in 5 times the war points. System announcement: Chinese people, please do your best to resist the invasion. Killing invaders will result in 2 times the war point. Warning: if China's fate falls to a certain level, China's position as the top heaven and earth legacy will be erased. Chapter 566. As these system announcements sounded out, the entire world was sent into an uproar. No one had expected such a thing to happen. After heavily injuring Qin, the second level of the heaven domain boundary had been closed, and the New Year festival had been stopped early. The world had entered the second stage of the chaotic world. Most people did not know what the heaven domain boundary was, so no one was worried. The New Year festival had been stopped early, making countless people feel that it was a pity. However, the second stage of the chaotic world was incredibly dangerous. The border regions were already incredibly chaotic, and the two sides hated each other and fought endlessly. Now that there were massive rewards, the two sides had even more reason to kill each other. There was no peace between the two countries, and it was either you kill me or I kill you. This undoubtedly intensified the hatred between the two countries. Luckily, the regional corridors had not been opened yet, or else there would have been clashes between the two countries, which would have affected the fate of the entire country. After hearing that they had heavily injured Qin and used up all of Qin's fate, the Chinese dynasties were incredibly excited. They were far ahead in terms of fate, and they had also heard that they had caused more than 200,000 of Qin's soldiers to die. This made them even more confident. However, they had never thought that heavily injuring Qin would lead to such a thing. The other countries were fine, as the rewards were normal. However, in China, anyone who killed a Chinese person would receive 5 times the rewards and double the fate. This was incredibly tempting, and even those who did not have enmity with China would not be able to help but act against China. China was at the center of the Midland continent, and there were countless countries around it. There were 22 of them, making it the country with the largest number of countries around it. However, with China's strength as the top legatee and its position at the center of the Midland continent, it did not have to fear many countries. This was why China was so confident. Of course, the other countries could only watch and did not dare to act. They were afraid that they would be attacked by China, and with their strength, they would not be able to defeat Qin. After all, not only was China incredibly powerful, but it also had a massive amount of fate, making it difficult for them to take advantage of it. As such, they could only watch. However, no one was willing to submit to others, and no one was willing to be inferior to others. As such, many countries would act against China in the end, wanting to trample on the Celestial Empire and replace it. However, they never got the chance to do so. Therefore, they had been patiently waiting for an opportunity. Today is finally here. The luck of the world is no longer on Huaxia's side. Not long after this system announcement sounded out, the flames of war broke out at the borders of China. China was too confident, relying on its status as a celestial empire and its massive amount of fate to look down on everyone else. They underestimated their threat and did not even take them seriously at all. However, it was precisely this kind of confidence that would cause Huaxia to suffer a catastrophe. China's ancient clans and 100 schools of thought could not help but sigh. They knew that such a day would come, and they were aware of the threats that China faced. As such, they opposed internal strife and internal strife. However, they still couldn't stop any of the parties, especially the dynasties and forces of Huaxia. In order to severely injure Qin, they even invited countless foreign forces to join in. It's all good now. Qin's fate has been used up, and Qin's legatee has suffered a backlash from the heaven and earth fate. They've gotten what they wanted, but all of China will suffer. Qin was the first to establish a town and a city, and it had received a large amount of China's fate. At the same time, it was one of the 5 great ancient kingdoms, and Qin controlled China's clan armament. Qin's legatee was the only person to awaken the Myrtle Imperial Star. Qin's massive amount of fate caused it to become the backbone of all of China. Once it collapsed, all of China would collapse as well. Now that there was a massive shift in fate, it would be fine if China could defend against the invasion. However, if it could not, all of China would fall into a catastrophe. First, China's fate would be greatly reduced. Once its fate decreased, all of China's people would not be as lucky as before, and they would face all sorts of disasters. Not only would their land be plundered, but countless Chinese people would also be slaughtered. After hearing about this system announcement, as well as the flames of war around China, the various dynasty legatees and factions' expressions became quite unsightly. Their plan had succeeded, but they did not want to see such an outcome, as they would all be implicated. Right now, China was like a piece of fragrant, juicy meat in everyone's eyes, and it would be strange if others did not act. Out of the 22 countries around China, only Pakistan did not act. The other 21 countries were like hungry wolves as they leapt at China and tore at it. The people from the other continents all felt quite envious of being able to stay next to China. After all, they could ravage China and obtain massive rewards, making them feel quite tempted. A group of ignorant Chinese people also received this system announcement. Seeing that the event had been stopped because of Qin, they felt quite furious and resentful. It was only the 5th day of the New Year festival, and there were still 2 more days before it ended. An event like the New Year festival, where one did not have to do anything to obtain massive rewards, was now cancelled. This was a great loss to them. Fudge! Qin, you bastard! Qin, why didn't your entire family die? You've come to harm your elder, you're just an idiot. Qin, screw your ancestors. We waited so long for an event, but it was stopped by an idiot like you. I don't want to say anything, I just want to ck Qin's entire family. Countless people's curses and insults towards Qin reached an all-time high because their interests had been harmed. They did not think about who had caused this or who the main reason was. If it wasn't for ordinary people like them, would Qin have been forced into a corner and used up all of his fate? This was simply impossible. However, if he had known that this would happen after using up Qin's fate, Zhao Fu definitely would have used it. After all, he would rather betray the world than let the world betray him. Back at Qin, Zhao Fu looked quite shocked. He had never thought that such a thing would happen. At the same time, he understood why his injuries were so severe. It was because of the backlash from the heaven and earth fate. Zhao Fu raised his head and looked at Xianru as he said, "You also received this system announcement, right?" Xianru lightly nodded. "Then is there any way to cure this kind of luck backlash?" Zhao Fu asked in concern. He felt that his body was incredibly weak and did not have any power at all. Even his powerful sovereign bloodline's recovery effects were quite weak, and Zhao Fu understood that this sort of backlash could not be cured with ordinary methods. Chapter 567. Hearing Xianru's words, Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief and said, "Help me up." Xianru put one hand on Zhao Fu's back and the other on Zhao Fu's arm as she gently helped Zhao Fu up. After Zhao Fu stood up, he looked at the tragic scene around him and felt a stab of pain in his heart. It was the first time that so many people had died in Qin City, 240,000, which was something that he hadn't even dared to imagine before. It was also the first time that he had lost so many generals. "Your Majesty!" Gunia walked over and paid his respects to Zhao Fu before looking at Zhao Fu in concern. Zhao Fu weakly smiled and said, "Gunia, you've done a great service this time. You've made a great contribution this time. Without your help, Great Qin would have suffered even more casualties against the system main army." Gunia slightly lowered his head and said in a concerned tone, "Your Majesty, this is what I should do. Now that the battlefield has been cleaned up, let's go back. Your health is more important." Zhao Fu felt a warmth in his heart and nodded. Following this, everyone returned to Qin City. The corpses of the soldiers and system main city soldiers, as well as the large amount of equipment on the players, were all collected and brought back to Qin City. Following this, Bai Qi and the others brought the city creation stones back to Qin City. Qin City had lost 240,000 soldiers, 90% of whom had not broken through to Stage 1 yet. The 800,000 soldiers had now become 560,000 soldiers. The 5 generals who had died were all ordinary generals, but Zhao Fu had some impression of them. Seeing these soldiers and generals die, Zhao Fu felt quite bad. Zhao Fu had never viewed them as cold tools. They were all people with their own feelings and thoughts. They had given everything they had for Qin City, and Zhao Fu could treat other people's lives coldly, but he couldn't treat his own people like that. The soldiers' corpses were taken to different places. Some were buried, while others were turned into undead. The Stage 1 soldiers' corpses were refined before being buried. Zhao Fu had long since told his soldiers what they wanted to do. If they died in battle, they could choose to rest in peace or turn into skeletons. After all, turning into skeletons was a continuation of life, and they might even be able to regain consciousness in the future. As for refining corpses, because there were very few Stage 1 soldiers and aptitudes, this rule had long since been established. Because they were going to be reused, the other soldiers didn't have any objections. Of course, no matter what happened to them, they were dead now. If they had family members, Qin would take good care of them and give them compensation. Now let's talk about the harvest. This time, Qin obtained another 7 system main cities, and adding on Gunia's promotion to City Lord, Qin now had 8 system main cities in total. Now, whether it was players or system main cities, none of the 4 regions around the Forest of Horrors posed any threat. Great Qin's future path would be quite smooth, and after clearing out the Forest of Horrors, they would be able to continue clearing out the 4 surrounding regions. It was just that Zhao Fu didn't have enough people to relocate the 7 system main cities, as that would require a large number of soldiers. Moreover, the system main cities' residents were quite resistant, and Qin had just gone through a large battle and needed time to recover, so he only relocated the system main cities. Relocating 7 system main cities gave a massive amount of EXP and merit points, but it was a pity that he didn't satisfy the requirements to level up. Qin was still missing a basic city, so even though Qin had enough EXP, he could only store it there and couldn't level up. The other gains were the 700,000 soldier corpses, which could provide another 700,000 blood god pills for Qin. There were also the countless players' equipment, which was worth a massive amount of money, as there were 12 million of them. Finally, there were the 100,000 captives. They had all chosen to surrender, or else Qin wouldn't have been able to capture them. These 100,000 system main city soldiers would be able to make up for the losses of Qin's soldiers. Half of Gunia's battle city's soldiers had died, and Zhao Fu didn't bother with the surviving soldiers and residents for now. He first had Gunia go back and convince the old city lord. After all, those people would still be loyal to him. Now, it was time to decide who the 7 city lord seals would be. Bai Qi had already replaced Zhao Fu and rebuilt the 7 system main cities. Now, Zhao Fu sat in the meeting hall, and because his body was quite weak, he couldn't even sit stably and needed Xianru to support him. 7 people knelt in front of Zhao Fu: Sun Wu, Chen Man, Li Mu, Du Kong, Lu Yeqing, Niu Shirley, and Li Yun. Chapter 568. Looking at the 6 women in front of him, Zhao Fu felt quite surprised because he knew one of them and had an impression of one of them. One of them was Sun Cece, and the other was East Green's female city lord. Because this female city lord had participated in destroying Great Qin, she had said that she would capture a city lord alive. Who captured her? Zhao Fu said somewhat angrily as he slightly frowned. Zhao Fu didn't care about capturing other women, as he just needed them to provide him with Phoenix Qi. However, why had his classmate been captured? Xianru felt quite surprised and asked, "Your Majesty, are you familiar with that woman?" Xianru asked, "Your Majesty, are you familiar with that woman?" Zhao Fu nodded and said, "I guess so." Xianru understood and lightly laughed as she said, "No wonder. I saw that her Phoenix Qi wasn't innate but acquired. It seems that it's because of your Majesty. In actuality, she doesn't have much Phoenix Qi, so your Majesty can let her go. However, she's seen what Qin looks like, and letting her go will be a disaster for her." Because of the 4 isolation walls, Qin's shops in the 4 regions were all closed out of fear of retaliation. As such, Sun Cece lost her job, but she didn't leave this region. Afterwards, she was targeted by Qin's assassins. Qin didn't care who it was, Anyone with phoenix chi was captured and offered to their majesty according to Xianru's orders. At first, Sun Sisi was quite afraid, but after seeing the other women, she calmed down a bit. Sun Sisi was shocked to find that they had been captured by Qin, but why had Qin captured ordinary people like them? Even though they didn't know the reason, thinking about how terrifying and cruel Qin was, the other women's faces became pale. They wanted to commit suicide and return to the real world, but they couldn't. Now, apart from the female city lord, the other women did not even dare to raise their heads in fear of angering the person sitting above them. Hearing the way the people around them addressed him, they were shocked to find that the person sitting above them was Great Qin's legatee. Thinking about all of the rumors about Great Qin's legatee, they did not dare to raise their heads. But at this time, Sun Sisi heard a familiar voice from above. She felt that the person above was her former boss, but how was that possible? In the end, Sun Sisi couldn't help but be curious. She raised her head slightly and saw a pale young man sitting above her. Sun Sisi was stunned and couldn't help but call out, "Zhao Fu?" Hearing the voice, Zhao Fu also looked at her, laughed dryly, and nodded slightly. Immediately, Sun Sisi finally understood why the mysterious boss was so nice to her. It turned out that he was her classmate. Sun Sisi still had some impression of Zhao Fu. Although he was in the same class, he was also a loner and rarely socialized with others. He was usually alone in school. Other than that, he was relatively ordinary and there was nothing special about him. But he is the Prince of Qin? Sun Sisi's mind went blank. She was so shocked that she didn't know what to say. Seeing this, Zhao Fu thought about it and decided to keep her here. After all, he could not reveal his identity. Zhao Fu ignored the beautiful female city lord's gaze and turned to the other four women as he said, "Raise your heads." Only then did the other four women slowly raise their heads. Only then did Zhao Fu see their appearances. They were quite good-looking. The first was a young girl with exquisite facial features and a somewhat childish look. The second woman had a slim figure and gave off a weak aura. The third was a woman who looked around 40 years old. Even though she was quite old, she was still quite attractive. The fourth woman had upper-class looks, but her lips were quite thin, and she gave off a shrewish feeling. Xianru had long since asked about their identities, and she told Zhao Fu about them. Two of them were from large families, one of them didn't have much of an identity, but her family was quite well off, and one of them was actually from Flower Moon. Zhao Fu had never thought that he would be able to capture another woman from Flower Moon. However, since he had already captured them, he couldn't let them go. Otherwise, with Flower Moon's power, they would be in a lot of trouble. Xianru took out 6 pieces of paper and handed them to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu took them and pressed the imperial ruler's seal on them before saying, "Sun Sisi, Zhao Yining, Lu Rubai, and Yanling, Bao Ningzhu, and Li Wanbai, I will now confer upon you the title of imperial concubines of Qin." 6 rays of golden light shot into the 6 women's bodies, and traces of golden phoenix chi rose up from their bodies and floated towards the heaven prayer platform. A trace of golden aura descended from the sky and entered Zhao Fu's body before spreading out. The image of a golden phoenix appeared within Zhao Fu's body, giving off a bright golden light. Zhao Fu's body, which had suffered a backlash from the heaven and earth fate, quickly healed under this golden light. In just a while, Zhao Fu felt that his injuries were slightly better, and his face became a bit rosier. This phoenix chi was quite effective, and if it wasn't for the Emperor Phoenix's power protecting him, he would have most likely suffered a backlash from the heaven and earth fate and become a cripple. It seemed that phoenix chi was quite important. Zhao Fu thought for a moment before having people bring them down and take good care of them. These women were like other women, and they had not been able to react at all when they had suddenly been conferred the title of imperial concubine. Following this, they were brought to a large courtyard. Lu Rubai happily looked at the woman in front of her and couldn't help but call out, "14th sister." The woman turned to look at Lu Rubai, looking quite surprised. She had never thought that she would meet her here, but she immediately understood and said, "Big Sister 26. You were also captured?" Lu Rubai awkwardly laughed, and the two of them started to happily chat. Because they both belonged to Flower Moon, Lu Rubai had always been worried about 14th Sister. Seeing that she was fine, she let out a sigh of relief. She looked at the situation in all of China. Looking at China's vast territory, there were flames of war everywhere, and the various countries did not want to let go of this rare opportunity. After all, such a great shift in fate was extremely rare, and it had only happened once in the real world's thousands of years of history. The various dynasty legatees and factions mobilized large amounts of resources and manpower to deal with Qin, causing many shocking battles to break out. It could be said that the entirety of China had fallen into a weak and empty state. This gave them even more opportunities, so they went berserk and fought with everything they had. They were like berserk beasts, madly biting and tearing at China. The battle was completely one-sided because the various countries had gone all out. Adding on the fact that they had been spying on China for a long time, they had made ample preparations, and their battle intents were incredibly strong. They swore to destroy China, destroy the emperor's family, and take over China's position. On the other hand, the Chinese side had not reacted yet, and they were still immersed in the Celestial Empire's confidence and superiority, thinking that China was invincible. Soon. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.